Chapter 878. There isn't much information on the chaos in Pan Shi's records. Regarding this, Liu expressed his understanding. After all, Pan Shi hadn't been born yet, so she naturally didn't have a deep understanding of the chaos. After her birth, she'd also studied the chaos. As she cultivated and matured, she'd also comprehended the chaos. Compared to Pangu's pitch-black darkness, she was many times stronger. This information was very valuable to Li Yu. After all, she was an existence born in the chaos. First-hand information about her personal experiences and feelings was of great research value. Not to mention, he also had Pan Shi's life experiences, which allowed Li Yu to fully grasp all the secrets of the creation of the world. With this experience as a reference, even if Li Yu was asked to create a new world, he definitely wouldn't do it. That was too dangerous. Risking death to create a new world? Did he have nothing better to do? Since I've received benefits, I'm not a stingy person. Then I'll help you. With a smile, Li Yu reached out and took the Dao flower into the resource vault. His figure flashed, and he instantly broke out of Pan Shi's Zifu consciousness. As for whether or not Big Boss Li is stingy, let's not talk about it. His figure reappeared in the outside world, on Pan Shi's forehead. Young girl, since you've created a new world, this world has also evolved into mountains, rivers, and all kinds of creatures. If you fully resurrect, then everything in this world will be annihilated and the end of the world will come. It's best not to do such a thing. With a smile, Liu pointed a finger at the ground, which was Pan Shi's forehead. I'll help you complete the evolution of this world. From Pan Shi's diary, Liu had obtained a complete understanding of this world's laws of heaven and earth, and clearly grasped Pan Shi's thoughts and ideas for creating a new world. The current Liu possessed all the abilities of Pan Shi. I've unlocked the GM authority, and I even have my own map editor. Furthermore, I don't need to consume my own power. I'm going to have to experience this addiction of being a god of creation. Liu hadn't played this kind of game for a long time, since he had played it in the sorcerer world. As he pointed out with his finger, an endless radiance swept out like a tidal wave, engulfing the entire world. Heaven and earth are black and yellow. The universe is vast and desolate. The sun and moon are dim and dim. The stars are arranged in rows. Winter comes and goes. Autumn harvests and winter stores. Vast and mighty radiance swept through the heavens and earth. Following Li Yu's announcement, the laws of heaven and earth were re-established. The sun and moon rose from the east and set in the west. The stars twinkled and swirled, forming a galaxy that filled the sky. The seasons changed. Wind, rain, thunder, and lightning appeared. The entire world entered a state of evolution. This evolution is still too slow. I have to speed it up. According to normal evolution, every tens of millions of years, or even billions of years, this world would not be complete. Li did not have that much time to waste here, so he naturally had to speed up. More importantly, he was spending other people's money anyway, so he didn't feel bad about it. Rumble. The earth quaked as Pan Shi's body radiated with endless light. Boundless origin chi of the world surged and churned wildly, rapidly being consumed. At the same time, Pan Shi's body was constantly disintegrating, transforming into an even more vast land. Mountains rose from the ground, rivers surged, and oceans converged. Vegetation grew in a cage, and flowers bloomed. With Liu rapidly consuming the origin chi of the world and Pan Shi's body, the evolution of heaven and earth sped up countless times. In just 2 short hours, it seemed like countless years had passed. A vast and boundless land appeared. It was no longer in the shape of a girl's body, but a vast expanse of heaven and earth. Fortunately, there's still a heart left. After having a great time, Liu promptly stopped after dissolving Pan Shi's body, leaving behind Pan Shi's heart. With this heart as the foundation, I'll fuse the Dao flower with all the memories in your diary and revive you. Look, I've not only helped you perfect heaven and earth, I've also helped you revive. How noble of me. There's no need to thank me. With a wave of his hand, Pan Shi's heart floated in the air. He took out the Tao flower and the rune diary that Liu had already read, and sent them both into Pan Shi's heart. Return to the origin, restore the original body. With a tap of his finger, the boundless vitality of the world instantly fused into Pan Shi's heart. The power of the same origin instantly activated the heart's vitality. Thump, thump, thump. The tremendous heartbeat was like a great bell, shaking the world. At this moment, the entire world resonated with this heartbeat. The entire world was cheering. Countless beings prostrated themselves on the ground, the resonance of their bloodlines and souls causing them to kowtow incessantly. Return, my lord. Countless prayers echoed through the world as boundless goodwill gathered in a frenzy. The great Tao resonated, and heaven and earth sang its praises. All living beings in the world were cheering and jumping for joy amidst this heartbeat. The child who had left her mother for many years had finally returned to her mother's embrace. This world had finally welcomed its original master. Boom! Vast and mighty radiance blotted out the sky. Auspicious clouds swirled in the sky. Heavenly flowers rained down, and golden springs surged from the earth. Endless auspicious phenomena manifested endlessly between heaven and earth. She was dignified and benevolent, sacred and graceful. She was the embodiment of the heavens and earth's beauty. It was as if all the holiness and beauty of the world were manifested in her body. Pan Shi greets Taoist brother. Thank you for your help. As the creator of this world, the master of this world, and the controller of the heavenly Tao, Pan Shi knew everything that had happened after Liu's arrival the moment she woke up. Although the consumption of energy was a bit painful, she was very grateful to this Taoist brother who'd helped her. If it wasn't for Liu, it was unknown when she would be revived, or even if she could be revived at all. She was naturally grateful for such a great kindness. There's no need to be so polite. Liu smiled and waved his hand. I have a deep understanding from your diary. Oh no, from the imprint you left behind. Since I've benefited from you, I'll naturally help you to repay the karma. Taoist brother, you're so kind. She bowed deeply and bowed to Liu. She naturally knew that if Liu was more vicious, it wouldn't be a problem for him to wrap her up and take her away. She had no chance of survival at all. She is unable to repay Taoist brother's kindness. He stretched out his hand, and a stream of light flew from the void and landed in Pan Shi's hand. Taoist brother, this is my natal artifact, Pan Shi mirror. It's quite powerful. Please accept it. There's no need. When he heard, I'm unable to repay your kindness, Liu instantly thought of a joke like, I'm unable to repay your kindness, so I'll repay you with my body. Seeing the Pan Shi mirror, that Pan Shi handed over, Liu smiled and shook his head. I've already gained a lot from you, so there's no need to thank me anymore. Taoist brother, you must be joking. Pan Shi lowered her head with a red face. Only then did Liu realize that his sentence of, I've gained a lot from you, seemed very inappropriate. This karma has been settled. I'll take my leave. Liu naturally couldn't stay any longer after such an awkward situation. He cupped his hands and instantly turned into light and disappeared. Thus, Big Bossly took a step forward on the path of destined to be alone. Chapter 879. I've finally obtained information about chaos. Although Pan Shi's understanding of chaos was more reflected in her own understanding, it was also worth referencing and studying for Liu. Little Meng's world has the Wuji seal of the primordial Lord of Heaven, which is also an innate Wuji based on chaos. Coupled with Pan Shi's own experience of chaos, we can verify each other. Liu calmed down and began to comprehend chaos according to the two pieces of information. While Liu was cultivating in seclusion, the world was quietly changing. The dragon race had washed away the chaotic blood of the chaos dragon, and the pure bloodline of the ancestral dragon had returned to the true lineage of Pangu. Under the leadership of Ao Guang, the dragon race was no longer as greedy and cruel as before. The true dragons became sacred and dignified, and they reappeared as the true lineage of the world and the true lineage of Pangu. Now, the universe is in chaos and the alien race is rampant. As the true lineage of Pangu, we, the dragon race, are naturally responsible for cleaning up the universe. The 18 sons of the ancestral dragon gathered together to discuss the future of the dragon race. Before we returned to the clan, His Majesty said that to ensure the prosperity of the dragon race, we must do something about luck and merit. At this moment, the 18 sons of the ancestral dragon had all transformed into human forms, but there were still 2 coral-like dragon horns on their heads. Ao Guang looked up at his brothers and said solemnly, His Majesty once saw the secrets of heaven and earth. In the future, the human race will be favored by the heavenly Tao and will be prosperous. Therefore, if we want luck and merit, we have to do something about the human race. How? Are we going to exterminate the human race and replace them? Tao looked up at Ao Guang. Big brother, let's not talk about the fact that the human race is also one of the bloodlines of Pangu. Even in the current situation, if we launch an attack on the human race, it will implicate a lot of things. It's not appropriate. That's right. The human race is the main force to resist the invasion of the alien race. Moreover, behind the human race, there are Nuwa and the 3 pure ones. They're all doing something about the human race. We have touched their interests, but we can't withstand their anger. Even His Majesty the Ancestral Dragon doesn't want to have a direct conflict with them, right? Yazi rolled his black eyes and shook his head. This is not appropriate. It's exactly the opposite of what you think. We're not attacking the humans, we are helping them. Ao Guang smiled, glanced at the group of brothers, and said, just as Yazi said, Nuwa, the 3 pure ones, and the 2 Buddhas, they all did something to the humankind. Then, why do they want to attack the human race? At this point, Ao Guang pointed to the sky. His Majesty the Ancestral Dragon has already understood the truth. These people are all fighting for the fortune of the human race. Luck and merit are the foundation of a race and a sect that will never decline. Therefore, His Majesty has given the order. Ao Guang's voice became louder and louder. He raised a shining purple-gold scale high up in his hand. His mighty divine power covered the sky and covered the earth. This dragon scale naturally couldn't be the ancestral dragon's dragon scale. Of course, it was made by our big Bustling. However, Bustling's knockoff was more authentic than the original. Plop! Under this ancestral dragon's might, the dragon's sons hurriedly knelt on the ground. We obey the ancestral dragon's orders. His Majesty has decreed that all members of the dragon race are not to bully the human race and not to harm the common people. If there is a violation, they will be beheaded without mercy. We accept the decree. Since it was the ancestral dragon's order, and it was related to luck and merit, it was the foundation of the dragon race's prosperity in the future. The dragon sons naturally did not dare to be negligent. From today onwards, the dragon race will have the water god status. All rivers, lakes, and seas will be controlled by us. The 4 blasphemy dragon gods will control all the water in the world, ensure that the wind and rain will be smooth, and protect the human race to reproduce. We accept the decree. Once the dragon god status was established, not only would there be merit, but it would also tie the dragon race's luck and the human race's luck together. From then on, they would prosper together. In the future of the world, the human emperor would consider himself a dragon and respect the dragon. This was the general trend of the dragon race's luck and the human race's luck fusing. In the current situation, it was a win-win situation for the human race and the dragon race. Not only would the human race have a natural strong ally, but it would also be very helpful in reversing the dragon race's previous image. In the past, the image of the dragon race as a bandit and a lunatic was deeply rooted in people's hearts. However, in this way, we will have a conflict with the 3 pure ones and the 2 Buddhas who are also fighting for the destiny of the human race. It's fine if it's the 3 pure ones. They're also on the path of sharing glory. However, the 2 from the Western sect plan to replace the country with religion and treat the human race as their own. Liu nodded when he heard A.O. Guang's report. The two from the Western sect are villains to begin with. They will face each other sooner or later. There's no need to care. There were still 2 Chaos Essence Dragons in the resource vault. After changing their souls, they could be released to support the situation. Even if the two from the Western sect did not care about their pride and personally went down, Liu was not without means. However, the dragon race still needs time to change their image. The image of the dragon race in the past was too bad. Even if you said that the prodigal son had turned over a new leaf, no one would believe you. He could only take it slow. There's no rush for this matter. Take it slow. When a human race and the foreign race are fighting, the dragon race's reinforcements will go on stage and fight side by side with the human race. The friendship built in the flames of war is even stronger. Of course, from a certain perspective, be it the humans or the dragons in this world, even if they died, it would not have much to do with Liu. The reason why he had planned so much was more important merit. After studying merit, Liu realized that merit was simply an omnipotent catalyst. When refining Dharma treasures and adding merit, they would become merit cardinal treasures. Not only would they be indestructible, but they would also not be tainted by karma when killing people. By adding merit to cultivation, one could cultivate a body of merit, the chi of merit, the dharma of merit, and the dharma of merit. Compared to the original version, it was several times more powerful. Logically speaking, merit is only a reward from the heavenly Tao of a world. It's meaningless to leave this world. However, merit seems to be useful everywhere. In the Pan-Shi world, perfecting the evolution of heaven and earth and reviving Pan, she also allowed Liu to obtain a large amount of merit. After returning to the Pan-Gu world, Liu suddenly realized that the merit of the Pan-Shi world was also useful in the Pan-Gu world. Although the power was reduced, it was still very valuable. If merit is a deposit, are you Pan-Gu already connected to the internet? Can you even be in charge of foreign currency exchange? Of course, this was just a joke. Liu used some merit to comprehend chaos. He realized that after consuming merit, his comprehension of chaos actually became faster. In this way, merit was very valuable to Liu. After all, even with Liu's realm, it was very difficult to completely comprehend chaos. He naturally could not let go of something that could speed up his comprehension. So, heaven and earth are chess pieces, and all living beings are chess pieces. Let's have a good game of chess. Liu smiled and turned to look at the southern wasteland, at Qing Ming of the Qing Yi tribe. You're a chess piece, and it's time for you to play your role. Chapter 880. Lord Wood Emperor, are we going to look for those spirit creatures? It had been a month since the Wood Emperor's show of power. In this 1 month, Green Mystic had undergone earth-shaking changes. During the month of hunting, he had killed a lot of beasts with his poisoned daggers and arrows, which he dared not to provoke. Even though it was only 10% of the gains, his power had skyrocketed. From a blind cripple at the 3rd level of Novice Magus, he had become a peak-level Junior Magus. He was as powerful as Qing Ying, who had been teaching the others. In a small clan like the Qing Yi clan, which only had tens of thousands of people, there was only one senior magus in the entire clan. That was the magus priest of the clan, who was responsible for worshipping the ancestors' souls and conveying their will. Qing Ming, who was only 1 step away from becoming a senior magus, was already one of the most powerful people in the clan. After all, the Qing Yi clan was not a native of the southern wasteland, but a clan that had fled from the eastern wasteland. In the southern wasteland, where fire was the dominant power, the power of wood was not the mainstream power. This morning, Qing Ming had just walked out of the clan's encampment, planning to continue hunting and improve his power as soon as possible. Unexpectedly, the Wood Emperor had given him a new task. Lord Wood Emperor, our prey has been changed to spirit creatures. Those spirit creatures are not beasts. They're also intelligent, and they're not evil. It's not appropriate for us to hunt them, is it? In this world, there were some spirit creatures that were born according to the natural law. For example, stone monsters, tree men, and so on. These spirit creatures were also intelligent, and all of them were at least at the level of senior magus. It's not hunting, it's recruiting. The Wood Emperor explained, the Qingyi clan is too weak. If you don't recruit some helpers, it'll be hard for you to survive in the southern wasteland. Not to mention developing and strengthening your clan. Recruiting? You can recruit spirit creatures? Qingming knew that some magi could offer sacrifices to spirit creatures and get them to do something for them. However, this was only a one-time thing. Long-term recruitment was something he had never heard of before. Others can't do it, but I can do it. The Wood Emperor snorted, seeming to be a bit unhappy. I see. Thank you, Wood Emperor. Since it was the Wood Sovereign, there was nothing that couldn't be done. In the past month, Qingming had a deep understanding of Wood Emperor's omnipotence and unfathomability. Anything in Wood Emperor's hands seemed to be a piece of cake. Following the instructions of the Wood Empress, Qingming whistled through the forest and rushed toward his destination. Not long after, Qingming stopped at the edge of pitch-black cliff. Lord Wood Sovereign, is there a stone golem here? Qingming's gray eyes scanned the surroundings. A layer of pale silver pupils appeared in the gray pupils. An invisible force was emitted from the pupils, as if it could penetrate the earth. However, he didn't find any stone golems in this cliff. Naturally, there isn't any in the cliff, because this cliff itself is a stone golem. The Wood Empress's chuckle rang out in Destiny's mind as a green dot of light shot out of his mind and landed in his hand. Take this and go recruit this stone, mountain giant. Mountain giant? Is it another kind of stone golem? Qingming nodded, looking at the Wood Empress's gift, which looked like a Magus Sprius talisman. Qingming had some hope in his heart. If we can recruit the mountain giant, the strength of our Qingyi clan will definitely increase rapidly. Walking to the pitch-black cliff, Qingming raised the talisman in his hand high. In the name of the Wood Emperor, the son of the mountain and the earth, please make an eternal covenant with me. From now on, you and I will fight side by side and face all the dangers in the world together. While chanting a strange spell, a green light burst out from the talisman in his hand and fell on the pitch-black cliff in front of him. Boom! The earth shook and the mountain shook. This 100-meter-tall cliff shook violently. Between the broken rocks, a pitch-black stone golem, which seemed to be made of obsidian, stood up from the ground and stood in front of Qingming. Mountains need trees. Young man who is favored by the world tree, I accept your covenant. The obsidian stone golem let out a muffled, thunder-like voice, as if the earth was roaring. In the name of the Wood Emperor, the covenant is made. A light flashed on the forehead of the obsidian stone golem, and a rune that looked like a giant tree was imprinted on it. Through this rune, Qingming realized that he could directly communicate with this obsidian stone golem through his mind. There was no need for words. The Wood Emperor said that your race is called the Mountain Giant. Mountain Giant? Yes, it sounds much better than Stone Golem. From now on, I am Mountain Giant Hey Yao. The big black golem raised his fist and grinned, as if he was very satisfied with the name Mountain Giant. That, big brother Hey Yao, can you change your body shape? Your current appearance is simply too big. Looking at the 100-meter-tall mountain giant in front of him, Qingming shook his head. If He Yao walked out with such a big guy, the earth would shake with every step he took. There was no need for him to do anything. I can make myself bigger, but I can gather the power of the earth and create a layer of stone armor on my body. But I can't make myself smaller. He Yao rubbed his head and laughed foolishly. But if you walk out like this, it will cause too much of a commotion. At this moment, Qingming suddenly felt that he had made a mistake in recruiting this big guy. This is very simple. I will walk underground. He Yao smiled, and a yellow light flashed. The earth rippled like waves, and this huge mountain giant silently merged with the earth. Earth burrowing technique. Qingming nodded. As expected of the son of the earth, this ability is indeed extraordinary. With a super meat shield and bodyguard following him underground, Qingming felt even more confident. Next, under the guidance of the Wood Emperor, Qingming found another old tree. This was an iron sandalwood tree. When he flashed the Wood Emperor's token, this huge tree suddenly pulled its legs out from the ground and kowtowed in front of Qingming. The builder tree was the ruler of all trees, and subduing the treant was very easy. Then, the Wood Emperor gave the treant a new name, Ancient War Tree. Through the mountain giant He Yao and the ancient war tree Titan, Qingming gathered a group of mountain giants and ancient war trees. 10 mountain giants, 20 ancient war trees, 30 senior magi. The Qingming clan will have nothing to worry about. Qingming's face was filled with joy. Nothing to worry about with such little power? If you think so, you'll die very quickly. 30 senior magi are nothing in front of a Magus king, not to mention the divine magi and supreme magi, who are even more powerful. The Wood Emperor sneered, "If you don't want to make progress, I will just replace you as soon as possible, so as not to waste my time." Yes, Qingming has learned a lot. Qingming took a deep breath and bowed to the Wood Emperor. His vision was still too narrow. Becoming a senior magi was only the starting point. His future path was to reach the peak of this world. After adjusting his mentality, Qingming rushed towards the Qingyi clan with a group of warriors. Therefore, the rise of the Qingyi clan had officially begun. But there were mountain giants, ancient war trees, and a blind man who could see. Were you sure this wasn't a war between Warcraft? Chapter 881. Dang, dang, dang. In the ancestral land of the Qingyi tribe, a huge bell was hanging high above the altar, and it was ringing loudly. Is that the ancestors' bell? It's not the day of the great sacrifice yet. Why did he ring the ancestors' bell? At this moment, all the people of the Qingyi tribe were shocked. However, when the ancestors' bell rang, everyone had to go to the ancestral land and the altar. A few moments later, several figures flew over and gathered at the square below the altar of the ancestral land. Is that Qingming? He rang the ancestors' bell? What is he doing? During this period of time, Qingming's strength had skyrocketed, and the rumor of the ancestors' spirit had been deeply rooted in people's hearts. Who else could do that except for the ancestors' spirit? He could restore the sight of a blind man and make his strength skyrocket in just 1 month. This was simply a miracle. At this moment, although people were surprised by Qingming's ringing of the ancestors' bell, they didn't do anything. It was not strange for someone who was favored by the ancestors' spirit to ring the ancestors' bell. More importantly, the most powerful person of the Qingyi tribe, the ancestors' spirit priest Qingrui, was standing behind Qingming with a big smile on his face. Apparently, Qingming's action was approved by the ancestor spirit and also supported by the ancestor's spirit priest. You have to support him. You are surrounded by 30 senior magi. Do you dare to not support him? The ancestor's face was full of smiles, but the corners of his mouth were slightly blue. Well, our mountain giant He Yao was too straightforward and impulsive. The ancestor's slap was not light. Even with the vitality of a senior magus, he still hadn't fully recovered. You should have shown your identity earlier. The ancestor's spirit was so scared that he hurriedly came out to greet the ancestor. If you had shown your identity earlier, I wouldn't have had to be slapped like this. You are such a bastard. The ancestor's heart was filled with surprise and anger. The surprise was that the Qingyi tribe was finally going to rise. As for anger, it was needless to say, his face was still hurting. By the ancestor's spirit's order, from now on, Qingming is the leader of the Qingyi tribe. After the crowd had gathered, the Lord Priest walked up to Qingming with a big smile on his face, grabbed Qingming's right hand and raised it high in the air. Everyone in the Qingyi clan must follow Chief Qingming's orders. Boom! As soon as the priest finished speaking, a green light burst out from the ancestral land. A giant tree appeared above Qing Styx's head, emitting endless radiance. At this moment, Qingming's divine might was awe-inspiring, and his aura was overwhelming. Ancestral spirits. The ancestral spirits have shown themselves. Sure enough, Qingming is blessed by the ancestors. Seeing this scene, the people of the Qingyi clan didn't doubt Qingming at all, and hurriedly kowtowed to him. In truth, the ancestor spirits had their own difficulties that they couldn't speak of. Even if I don't want to, I can't. This little fellow really had a builderwood on him. If he really is someone favored by the Wood Empress, how can I not favor him? Big Bosley smiled, but didn't say anything. He had collected a Jianmu branch from Little Meng's world. Liu erased the Tao contained in the branch, and then injected the Tao of heaven and earth he got from the jade disc of good fortune into the branch. Therefore, this fake Jianmu branch was even more authentic than the real one. Ancestral spirits. Chief Qingming. All the people of the Qingyi clan, including the Lord Priest, knelt down in front of Qingming. For the clan, Qingming raised his arm high and shouted the slogan taught by the Wood Empress. For the clan, all the people of the Qingyi clan shouted loudly. If a traveler saw this scene, he would be confused and think that he had walked into the wrong place. My people, since our ancestors came to the southern wasteland, it has been 10,000 years. Now, we're still struggling to survive. Qingming stood on the altar, glanced at the people below, and said in a loud voice, "But from today on, everything will change. We, the Qingyi clan, will rise again and walk towards glory." Qingming's speech was very impassioned. However, the people below didn't react much to it. Who didn't know how to speak loudly? Why don't you say something practical? A smile appeared on Qingming's face. Since I've come out, of course, I will say something practical. The road to rise again starts right now. Qingming shouted loudly, then slowly raised his arm and waved it. Boom! A loud noise came, and the earth shook. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, a huge, sturdy, and thick wall slowly rose from the ground, surrounding the entire tribe. The Tianzhanhai wall was made of solid rocks and was very solid. With the protection of this high wall, the entire tribe would be much safer. With this wall, the city would be no longer far away. Will we, the Qingyi clan, have our own city too? Ancestral spirits bless the chief. At this moment, the whole Qingyi clan was in a jubilant mood. This is just the beginning. Qingming pressed his hands to calm the people down and said, "Everyone, in addition to the wall, I have also brought eternal allies. They will protect the Qingyi clan for generations. They will live and die together. Come out. My race is Mountain Giant. My race is Ancient War Tree." Once his voice faded, another loud noise came. Hundreds of Zhanghai mountain giants, which are made of all kinds of rocks, rose from the ground, lined up, and walked towards the Qingyi clan's encampment with heavy steps. On the other side, 20 huge trees also lined up and walked towards the Qingyi clan's encampment. Stone monsters. Tree men. These are all senior magi, level mountain spirits. They are allies, living together. Are they our own people? 30 senior magi. Ha ha! Our Qingyi clan is rising. In the whole Qingyi clan, only one senior magi, the Lord Priest, was holding the clan together. By now, did the Qingyi clan already have 30 senior magi? This force was already very strong in this area. Everyone, from now on, the mountain giants and the ancient war trees will protect our clan and will fight side by side with us. They're our own brothers, our own people. We swear to protect the Qingyi clan till death do us part. Under He Yao's lead, the mountain giants let out thunderous roars. The ancient war trees will always be the Qingyi clan's strong support. We will fight side by side and live and die together. Titan led a group of ancient war trees and also let out a loud roar. Live and die together, fight side by side. At this moment, the whole Qingyi clan was boiling. The Qingyi clansmen were so excited that their blood was boiling. They raised their longbows high and shouted. The mountain giants entered the Qingyi clan's encampment and built a city for the Qingyi clan according to Qingming's instructions. The ancient war trees moved all kinds of flowers and trees and redesigned the encampment. The Qingyi clan was in full swing. From this moment on, the Qingyi clan officially stepped on the road of rising. Chapter 882. Qingming and the others were happy, while Ji Hao was furious. Ji Shu, that bastard, How dare he use the Bai Fong clan's power to kill my family? Ji Hao's heart was filled with anger as he recalled what had happened. Ji Hao's father, Ji Xia, was the leader of the Fire Crow clan. When Ji Hao was just born, his family was attacked by the Blackwater Serpent clan. In order to protect Ji Hao, Ji Xia and his wife used their own bodies to block the attack from the Blackwater Serpent clan. As a result, Ji Xia and his wife both had their Magus acupoints broken and fell from the level of senior magi. Although Ji Xia was not as powerful as he used to be, he was one of the few people in the Fire Crow clan with normal intelligence. During these years, under Ji Xia's leadership, the Fire Crow clan had been developing rapidly. As the year-end ceremony was about to begin, Ji Shu was ordered by his father-in-law, the elder of the Bai Fong clan, to compete for the position of the leader of the Fire Crow clan. If it was a normal challenge, it would be fine. However, not only did they use the power of the other clans to oppress their own clans, they also tried to kill Ji Hao and his parents with all kinds of evil schemes. This had touched Ji Hao's bottom line. Qing Long was an orphan before he came to this world. He had never felt the love of his parents. In this world, he cherished the love of his parents very much. I don't care about the position of the leader of the Fire Crow clan. But, you want to kill my parents? You're courting death. Ji Hao snorted. His eyes were filled with coldness. The title of the strongest man on earth was earned by killing people. Kid, Ji Shu is a senior magus. His wife Jiang Yao is also a senior magus. And his son Ji Wu is already at the peak of the novice magus level. You're only at the 4th level of the novice magus level. You're still far away from them. In Ji Hao's mind, Pan Gu had shown Ji Hao the difficulties he was facing. Not to mention that you were injured when you were attacked, which made your body much weaker than the others. Therefore, you can only practice magus magic. You can't even defeat Ji Wu with your current strength. Don't talk about these useless things. Give me the Bution, Lu Bution, Lu Bution, Lu Bution. The mantra of 9 secret words had already been upgraded, and Ji Hao didn't care about the original version. If the true art of heaven, mending no leak, was really that miraculous, and it also had the true blood of the dragon and phoenix, it would be able to display some of the characteristics of the true body of Pangu after the fusion. This was a worthwhile trade. You should have done this long ago. Pangu smiled, then waved his hand and sent out a 5-colored light spot into Ji Hao's lower abdomen. Then, the incantation of the true magic of fixing heaven leaks fell into Ji Hao's soul. Devour? Refine? Possessing 1% of the power of the object it devoured. If I eat a dragon, then I will have 1% of the dragon's strength. The so-called true art of heaven, mending not leaking, was a peerless technique that a foodie loved the most. However, there are countless savage beasts in the wilderness. It's quite convenient to eat them all along the way. Ji Hao is also quite satisfied with this cultivation method. This is the blood of dragons and phoenixes. Pangu waved his hand and sent out 2 light spots. One light spot flew into Ji Hao's body, while the other flew into Ji Hao's soul. Boom! His body and divine soul shook violently at the same time. Suddenly, Ji Hao felt as if he had become the center of the world. Endless natural power lingered around him, and he felt as if the whole world was resonating with him. Is this Pangu's true body? Although I only have a little bit of Pangu's true body, it is already so powerful. After merging with the blood of dragons and phoenixes, Ji Hao found that his current cultivation potential could even be described as genius. With the help of the true magic of fixing heaven leaks, his strength would definitely soar within a short period of time. By then, it would be too easy for him to deal with Ji Wu with the upgraded version of the mantra of 9 secret words. Jiang Yao, that vicious woman, and Ji Wu have already gone deep into the wasteland. Since you want to kill me and my parents, I have to make the first move. Ji Hao raised his head and looked at the wilderness outside the Fire Crow clan's residence. He sneered and said, I can't defeat Jiang Yao in a face-to-face fight. Even Ji Wu is not easy to deal with. But in the wilderness, I can kill you in a second. Ji Hao's body flashed and silently sneaked out of the clan's residence and rushed towards the wilderness. Whoosh! In a forest, Ji Hao whistled. Swoosh! A gust of wind blew over, and the branches and leaves in the forest shook. Little Ji, are you looking for me? An exceptionally beautiful young girl, covered in wisteria, carried a longbow. She rode on a fiery red leopard with silver spots on its body, which was 10 meters long, and flew over on the wind. This 10 meters long leopard was as light as a ghost. It trod on the branches, as if it was taking a stroll in the air. This girl was not a human, but a mountain ghost or a wood ghost. Ji Hao had been living in the forest since he was a little kid, so he was quite familiar with these monsters. Don't call me Little Ji, okay? Ji Hao rolled his eyes and said, Hung Luo, where are Old Tree and Big Rock? Why didn't they come? The old tree and the big rock disappeared a few days ago. I don't know where they went. The mountain ghost named Hung Luo glanced at Ji Hao with a smile and said, Little Ji, why did you call us here? Just to kill someone. Ji Hao answered casually, then frowned and said, Old Tree and Big Rock are not here. With our strength, it's too difficult to kill a new senior magus. This mountain ghost named Hung Luo only had the strength of a peak junior magus. Even with Ji Hao's help, it was almost impossible to kill Jiang Yao, a senior magus. If Big Rock and Old Tree don't come, I won't take the risk. It's too dangerous. Hung Luo shook her head. She was a spirit of nature, and her lifespan was very long. As time passed, her strength would naturally increase. Naturally, she didn't want to risk her life to help Ji Hao kill someone. It's okay, I'll call Old Tree and Big Rock. Ji Hao smiled, stretched out his hand, and locked his fingers together. His Zhen Yuan surged, and he shouted, Lin. His voice didn't travel far, but a mysterious wave of energy rippled out silently and spread far away. Little Ji is calling me? Under the ground, a mountain giant, who was about to go to the Qingyi clan, suddenly heard the voice and hurriedly stuck his head out of the ground. Little Ji and I are old friends. I'd better help him first, then go to the Qingyi clan. Anyway, the Qingyi clan is not in a hurry. Big Rock turned around, drilled into the ground, and rushed towards Ji Hao. At the same time, an old tree also turned around and rushed towards Ji Hao. This is... In the Qingyi clan, Qing Ming suddenly heard the mountain giant and ancient war tree report that someone was summoning them. Someone else can also summon spirit monsters, and it's different from the summoning of ordinary magi. This can't be ignored. The current strength of the Qingyi clan came from these mountain spirits. Qing Ming was constantly expanding his team. If they were robbed, it would be troublesome. Let's go and see who it is. Qing Ming jumped up and landed on the ancient war tree, Iron Sandal Mountain. He waved his hand, and 5 ancient trees and 5 mountain giants rushed towards the summoning place. Well, the host and the protagonist are about to meet. They won't fight, will they? Liu laughed and continued to study the chaos. He was too lazy to pay attention to such trivial matters. Chapter 883. Gee, we're here. Moments later, Stone, an old tree, appeared in front of Ji Hao. You too. Help me kill someone. Ji Hao didn't try to hide his purpose. Gee, you can count on us. Stone patted his chest and answered without hesitation. It's just, I haven't drunk for a long time. A big vat, one for each of you. Okay, tell me, who do you want to kill? The 3 monsters almost drooled when they heard the words a big vat. A venomous senior magus. Ji Hao replied and led the 3 spirit monsters to their destination. Heng Luo, the mountain ghost, was born with the ability to communicate with plants. All the plants in the forest were her eyes and ears. Therefore, Ji Hao had found Jiang Yao and Ji Wu through Heng Luo. It was a hot spring. In the dense forest, there was a hot spring bubbling. Ji Wu was soaking in the hot spring. Jiang Yao was chanting an ancient spell, walking around the hot spring and throwing all kinds of medicines into the hot spring. These medicines were strange. There were poisonous glands and sacs of all kinds of poisonous insects, dead bodies and shells of insects, and even some live poisonous insects and snakes. After these medicines were thrown into the hot spring, the water turned red. Wu, you must defeat Ji Xiao's little bastard at the ancestral ceremony. Jiang Yao's face turned ferocious after throwing the medicines into the hot spring. Wu, don't kill him. You and Ji Hao have to make a blood oath during the ancestral ceremony. Whoever loses will become the other slave. Make him a slave. If I kill Qing Fu at the ancestral ceremony, you kill Ji Hao. But if I don't succeed, use Ji Hao's life to force Qing Fu to hand over her 2 inherited magic treasures. Of course, Ji Hao heard what Jiang Yao said. The Qing Fu that Jiang Yao mentioned was naturally Ji Hao's mother. How vicious. Not only do you want to kill me, but also steal my treasures. Ji Hao's eyes shone with a cold light, and the killing intent in his heart was surging. The strongest man on earth from the future was naturally not a soft-hearted person. If you want to kill my entire family, then I'll kill your entire family. However, we can't just go up and kill them openly. We still have to disguise ourselves. Ji Hao, who had been prepared for this, quickly put on a tight suit made of snake skin and picked up a long sword, which was shaped like a snake's tooth. Pulling up the hood, he looked exactly like an assassin from the Blackwater Serpent clan. The Blackwater Serpent clan was the Fire Crow clan's sworn enemy. Killing Jiang Yao and her son, and then putting the blame on the Blackwater Serpent clan, would they still be able to confront the Blackwater Serpent clan? The first thing these 2 tribes did when they met was to pull out their blades and slash at each other. Who would waste time talking nonsense with you? Go! Ji Hao waved his hand, and the rock instantly merged into the ground. Hung Luo pulled her bow, and the tree, he directly rushed out. Boom! A row of giant trees exploded with a loud bang, and a huge tree demon rushed out of the forest with heavy steps. Human, this is my territory. You've invaded my territory. The old tree demon roared angrily, and a gust of wind roared around the hot spring. Countless leaves were rolled up into the air by the wind. On the thick and mottled bark of the tree, tens of green spell symbols sparkled and looked extremely terrifying. A senior Magus-level tree demon? Jiang Yao's heart skipped a beat. This was the territory of the tree demon? Spirit of the forest, I'm from the Baifeng clan. I want to borrow your territory. Tell me your conditions. Jiang Yao knew a little about these spirit creatures. As long as they didn't become deadly enemies, they could negotiate with each other. Baifeng, the old tree demon, seemed to be hesitating. On the thick trunk, a pair of huge eyes blinked and seemed to be thinking about what conditions to propose. Sure enough, we can negotiate. Jiang Yao let out a sigh of relief, and a faint smile emerged on her face. These spirit creatures of the forest, how could they have seen the world? The conditions that they proposed were just ordinary things. Roar! Suddenly, the old tree demon jumped up, and 2 huge arms, which were intertwined with branches, burst out a dazzling light and smashed towards Jiang Yao and Ji Wu, who was in the hot spring. You old bastard, you're courting death. The sudden attack made Jiang Yao turn pale with fright. Even though they were both senior magi, there was still a big difference between a wizard and a warrior. Jiang Yao's witchcraft was powerful, but her physical strength was far inferior. Being attacked by the old tree demon at close range, Jiang Yao didn't even have the intention to defend herself. Boom! After a flash of fire, Jiang Yao grabbed Ji Wu, who was in the hot spring, and stepped back dozens of feet out of the old tree demon's attack range. Clang! The sound of a sword pierced into the sky, and the cold air pierced through the heart. As soon as Jiang Yao and Ji Wu landed on the ground, a dark figure rushed up like a poisonous snake and stabbed towards Jiang Yao with its sharp fangs. Dark water, mystical snake. The figure in front of her was dressed as an assassin, and the cold water vapor coming out of his body was real. Assassins were the wizard's biggest enemy. Witchcraft was powerful, but physical strength was their weakness. Even if a senior magus was stabbed by a novice magus assassin, it was highly possible for him to die. That was because assassins were poisoned. Jiang Yao was caught off guard, and she couldn't dodge or defend herself. Then she did something horrifying. She placed her son, who was still in her hands, in front of the sword. Amma, Ji Wu widened his eyes in disbelief. The pain of being stabbed in the chest was nothing compared to the pain of being stabbed by his mother. Tears rolled down his cheeks, and Ji Wu was heartbroken. Wu, my son. Jiang Yao also realized what was going on. Just you wait, I'm going to cut you into pieces. A talisman flashed across his hand. Jiang Yao and Ji Wu's bodies were instantly engulfed in a fiery light. A crimson one-legged strange bird wrapped Jiang Yao and Ji Wu up, let out a long cry, and soared into the sky. Damn it, how could I let them escape? Ji Hao beat his chest in anger. Boom! At this moment, a huge explosion sounded. A huge black rock whizzed through the air and smashed into the illusory Bai Fong, causing a loud bang. The Bai Fong's illusory figure exploded on the spot. Jiang Yao screamed and fell straight down from the sky. Whoosh! A sharp arrow emitting a faint dark green light pierced through the air and shot toward Jiang Yao like a bolt of lightning. Jiang Yao was a senior magus, and she was not an ordinary person. She hurriedly cast a protective spell to block the arrow. The arrow broke the protective spell, and its power was very weak. It only left a small cut on Jiang Yao's arm. However, this cut was enough to kill her. Voodoo! Jiang Yao screamed and fell to the ground. She died in agony. Boom! 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 A series of heavy footsteps sounded, and 5 stone monsters and 5 tree monsters walked out of the forest. Stone monsters? Tree monsters? Big stone, old tree. Are these the helpers you recruited? Ji Hao was overjoyed when he saw this. Stone monsters? We are mountain giants. He Yao beat his chest and roared. We are ancient war trees. Titan also roared. Mountain giants? Ancient war trees? Ji Hao was stunned. You are mountain giants and ancient war trees. And there is also Illidan. At this moment, Ji Hao saw the boy standing on the ancient tree. The boy's eyes were gray and lifeless. He was obviously blind. No way. There is really Illidan? Ji Hao didn't know what to do. The strongest man on Earth from the future. He was young once, and he also knew about the game. But this was not right. Illidan, ancient war trees, and mountain giants appeared in this world. Brother, did you go to the wrong place? Chapter 884. A member of the Qing Yi clan, Ji Hao was stunned for a while. Then he came back to his senses. The blind boy in front of him was obviously a member of the Qing Yi clan, not to mention the wood power he was releasing. Ji Hao's mother was also from the Qing Yi clan, so it was impossible for him not to recognize a member of the Qing Yi clan. But was this Illidan also a member of the Qing Yi clan? How come he had never heard of him? Since when did the Qing Yi clan have such a powerful person? You should thank Hung Luo. She told me that you're from the Fire Crow clan. Qing Ming leaped down from the tree and landed in front of Ji Hao. He glanced at Ji Hao, then shook his head and said, You're dressed like a snake. That arrow of mine was almost aimed at you. No need to thank me. Hung Luo waved her hand at Ji Hao and smiled. Haha, I had no choice. Ji Hao smiled and cupped his hands towards Qing Ming. Thank you, brother of the Qing Yi clan. My name is Ji Hao, and my mother is Qing Fu. We're both from the Qing Yi clan. We're really brothers. Aunt Qing Fu's son? Uncle Qing Ying's nephew? So it's you. Qing Ming glanced at Ji Hao and nodded with a smile. My name is Qing Ming. We're really brothers. Yes, it's me. Ji Hao laughed out loud. He had a good impression of this Illidan guy. Ji Hao, I'm leaving. At this time, Stone came out from the ground and nodded to Ji Hao. He then walked to the team of mountain giants and stood behind He Yao. Yes, Ji Hao, I'm leaving too. Old Tree also greeted Ji Hao and walked to the team of ancient war trees. Ji Hao, you're our friend, but he's our brother. I'm going to help him. Call me if you need help. I'll still come to help you. Hung Luo smiled and nodded to Ji Hao. She then rode on the red cheetah and walked behind Qing Ming. As a wood spirit, Hung Luo could clearly sense the power of the world tree. The king of trees was also the leader of wood spirits. Hung Luo didn't hesitate. And we're all brothers. It's the same. Qing Ming was a member of the Qing Yi clan. Helping Qing Ming was the same as helping Ji Hao. Ji Hao was more or less disappointed about this, but he didn't care too much about it. Kid, this little guy from the Qing Yi clan in front of you isn't simple at all. Pangu reminded Ji Hao in his head. This little guy, is he a descendant of Emperor Qing? Strange, when did the Azure the Arch, that blockhead, have a human descendant? Azure Emperor. Ji Hao paused for a second. How did He Leiden get involved with Emperor Qing? However, when he thought of the possibility of time travel, he felt relieved. Didn't you say that the Azure the Arch is the spirit of the builder tree? Could it be that he found human wife, and then gave birth to a human descendant? Nonsense. Pangu curled his lips. Forget it. In any case, be careful. This little guy is not simple. Besides, he is already a peak-level junior magus, much more powerful than you. The peak of junior magus? He's about the same age as me, but he's already so powerful. As expected of he cough. Ji Hao hurriedly stopped. He didn't say the name Illidan. Ji Hao raised his head and looked at Qing Ming. Suddenly, a thought popped into his head. Brother Qing Ming, do you know Tyrant? Too rare? What do you mean? Qing Ming paused for a second. He didn't know what too rare meant. Not her. Ji Hao was also surprised. If it was really Illidan, even if he had traveled through countless worlds and reincarnated countless times, he shouldn't have forgotten this unforgettable name. Oh, nothing. She's a beauty, and she looks a bit like Hung Luo. Speaking of this, Ji Hao's body trembled again. Hung Luo, didn't she look like Tyrant? She was also riding a leopard, and she was also holding a bow. Although Tyrant's leopard was white, but didn't this red leopard have silver spots? No way. Ji Hao opened his mouth wide. How could there be such a coincidence? The stone monsters in this world were no different from the mountain giants. The tree men were exactly the same as the ancient war trees. Qing Ming looked like Illidan, and Hung Luo looked like Tyrant. More importantly, those archers of the Qing Yi clan were the archers of the Dark Elves. Was there going to be a war between the Dark Elves? Ji Hao was a bit confused. Ji Hao, this woman is from the Baifeng clan, right? We killed the senior magus of the Baifeng clan. If we don't clean it up, it will be very troublesome. The Baifeng clan was even more powerful than the Fire Crow clan, not to mention the Qing Yi clan. If they didn't clean up the Baifeng clan senior magus, they would bring trouble to the Qing Yi clan. Qing Ming walked to the bodies of Jiang Yao and her son, waved his hand, and a cyan light flashed. The bodies of the two disappeared in a flash. Since you're dressed as a mangy snake, you must know some of the mangy snake's abilities, right? After cleaning up the bodies, Qing Ming turned his head and looked at Ji Hao. Yes. Ji Hao made a gesture with his hands, and cold water vapor rose, leaving a trail of water vapor in the air. Back when he was still the strongest man on Earth, Ji Hao had already learned the water-controlling spell. Now, he was even more proficient in it. We shouldn't stay here for too long. See you next time. They couldn't stay in a crime scene like this for too long. The right thing to do was to leave right away. After saying goodbye to Ji Hao, Qing Ming took a group of warriors and rushed into the woods, disappearing into the mountains. Although there were some twists and turns, we killed that evil woman Jiang Yao. Ji Hao sneered, turned around, and drilled into the woods, fleeing as well. Qing Ming, that Ji Hao is not simple. At this time, in Qing Ming's mind, the Wood Emperor said almost the same thing as Pangu. And Qing Ming's son is definitely not simple. He was able to kill people at such a young age, and even dared to kill a senior magus. This is certainly not something that ordinary people can do. Qing Ming smiled and said, among those boorish men of the Fire Crow clan, Ji Hao is already very cunning. Not only that, the Wood Empress's voice became slightly solemn. I can sense a very special aura from his body. That power is not ordinary. He also has a power that is similar to mine. Is that so? Qing Ming paused for a second, then slowly nodded and said, no wonder he can summon mountain spirits. However, Ji Hao was Qing Ming's son, which meant that he was one of them. Even if he was born in the Fire Crow clan, he must be a natural ally of the Qing Yi clan. If one of their own became stronger, it would only bring benefits. If the Qing Yi clan wants to grow stronger, we will need allies. Ji Hao seems to be a good choice. In the future, the Qingyi clan would definitely grow stronger and would definitely have conflicts with some other forces. At this time, allies would be very important. Qingming turned around and looked at the Fire Crow clan, smiled, and said, Ji Hao's father, Ji Xia, is the leader of the Fire Crow clan. It seems that we will have many opportunities to cooperate. Chapter 885. Missing? Jiang Yao and Ji Wu are missing? Ji Shu growled and stood up abruptly. His tall and muscular body emitted a layer of scorching light, like a raging flame. Oomph! How dare you? Jiang Fun, Jiang Yao's father, the Bai Fong clan's master magus, yelled. His eyes were blazing with fiery light. My daughter and my grandson are missing in the territory of your Fire Crow clan. We've checked the scene thoroughly and used 7 kinds of sensitive, smelling magic beasts, but we couldn't find even a trace of the enemy's scent. A Fire Crow clan's man bowed and reported to Ji Shu and Ji Shu. Except for the scent of the black water serpent, we didn't find anything. Got it, you can leave now. Ji Shu waved his hand and sent the Fire Crow clan's man out. He then turned around and looked at Jiang Fun. Father, I'm afraid this is not normal. Ha! Jiang Fun sneered and said, in the Fire Crow clan's area, only a few old bastards from the Gold Black Mountain are capable of doing this. Father, do you mean? Ji Shu raised his head and looked at the Gold Black Mountain, the ancestral land of the Fire Crow clan. His face suddenly changed. Did they find out that we're cooperating with the non-human kind? I don't think so. Jiang Fun shook his head. Except for ourselves, even Jiang Yao doesn't know that we're cooperating with the Blood Moon mercenary group. They couldn't have found out. Then, Ji Shu knitted his eyebrows and showed a fierce look. Then, Jiang Yao and Ji Wu's disappearance must have something to do with Ji Xia. Do any of the Gold Black Mountains, Master Magi, not want me to be the leader? No matter what, you have to be the leader. Jiang Fun turned around and stared at Ji Shu. Only when you become the leader can you control the Fire Crow clan and start a war. Only in this way can we keep capturing captives. How much profit can we get by selling these captives to the Blood Moon? Father, the Blood Moon are the non-human kind after all. If we cooperate with them, we'll be seen as the public enemy of the humankind. Ji Shu looked at Jiang Fun worriedly. He still didn't trust Jiang Fun. You know nothing. Jiang Fun roared angrily. We can exchange for the secret method to become a Magus King from Blood Moon. As long as we become Magus Kings, where in the world can we not go? Even if the Fire Crow clan or even the Bai Fong clan were wiped out, so what? In another place, we'll be heroes again. Shaman King. Ji Shu clenched his fists and said, become a Magus King and rule the world. Even if the entire tribe were to perish, what does it have to do with me? I'll do it. Ji Xia was dead for sure. Their whole family is dead. Here you go. This is a treasure I got from the Blood Moon. Jiang Fun took out an ancient, modeled wooden staff and handed it to Ji Shu. The staff of the Sui sovereign. Somehow, it had fallen into the hands of the non-human kind. They couldn't find anything special about it, so they thought it was just an ordinary antique. I exchanged it with them. The staff of the ancient holy emperor, Sui Run. Holding this ancient, modeled wooden staff, Ji Shu sensed the great power contained in it. He was so excited that his whole body was trembling. With his staff, even if those old bastards from the Gold Black Mountain got involved, Ji Xia would be dead for sure. Time passed slowly. Half a month had passed. Half a month later, the Fire Crow clan's year-end ceremony officially began. It was a grand ceremony. All the small clans that were close to the Fire Crow clan or were under the protection of the Fire Crow clan had received invitations and were invited to attend the ceremony. The Qingyi clan was also under the protection of the Fire Crow clan and had also received an invitation. The Fire Crow clan's ceremony? Qingming nodded and said, inviting the leaders of the surrounding clans to attend the ceremony, I guess it's also a show of power to deter the other clans. Qingming smilingly put away the invitation, turned around, and looked at Qingying, who was sitting in the meeting room. Uncle Qingying, you haven't seen Aunt Qingfu for a long time. Come with me. Yes. Thank you so much. Qingying was overjoyed and hurriedly cupped his fist to accept the order. Master Priest, please take care of our family, Qing Ming said to Qing Rue, then took Qing Ying and a group of guards and headed towards the Gold Black Mountain, the ancestral land of the Fire Crow clan. The Fire Crow clan is indeed a big clan. It's so magnificent. Stepping into the Fire Crow clan's territory, Qing Ming saw a fiery red mulberry forest. Thousands of gigantic fire crows were flying in the air. Their bodies were shining with bright fiery light. The giant crows were like little suns as they soared into the sky, dispersing all the clouds within 100 miles of the sky. These fire crows are all senior magi? Qing Ying raised his head and looked at those fire crows in the sky and was stunned. The Fire Crow clan is so powerful. Of course, not all of them are grand magi. Qing Ming shook his head and said, only 10% of the fire crows are senior magi. But hundreds of senior-level fire crows are already quite impressive. We're not much weaker than them, Qing Ying said with a smile. Thinking of the city where the clan resided, those mountain giants and ancient war trees, he said, we already have over 50 senior magi. External forces are not the foundation after all. Only when we have tens of senior magi in our own clansmen can we truly rise. Qing Ming sighed. Even he hadn't become a senior magi yet, let alone the others. The rise of the Fire Crow clan was a long and arduous journey. Woo! 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 A loud bugle sound resounded through the sky, faintly sounding like a dragon's roar. It was the Dragonbone Bugle. It was said that one of the ancestors of the Fire Crow clan was a powerful dragon slayer. The throat bone of a dragon was made into a set of precious Dragonbone Bugle, which was now the most precious treasure of the Fire Crow clan. Today was the day of the ancestral worship ceremony, and this set of Dragonbone Bugle was taken out and was played by tens of the most powerful Magisprius of the Fire Crow clan. The high-pitched and sharp bugle shook the sky, faintly releasing a dragon's power. Clouds and smoke rose from the sky, as if a dragon was stirring up the clouds. Dragonbone Bugle? Did the Fire Crow clan really kill a real dragon? Qing Ming was also shocked by this bugle sound, which faintly contained the dragon's power. The dragonkind was not something that ordinary people could afford to offend. The Fire Crow clan had killed a real dragon, but hadn't been destroyed by the angry dragons. It's just a flood dragon, not a real dragon. The Wood Emperor explained to Qing Ming. I see, it makes sense. Flood dragons were also dragons, but they weren't regarded as the same kind as the real dragons. So what if they killed a real dragon? Of course, the Fire Crow clan wouldn't be afraid of the dragonkind. Boom, boom, boom. On the Gold Black Mountain, huge leather-war drums were being beaten. The thunders of the drums echoed through the mountains, and even the ground was shaking slightly. The ancestral worship ceremony starts now. Countless Fire Crow clan's clansmen gathered from all directions, like long dragons. In front of the ancestral temple of the Gold Black Mountain, on the broad square, people from all branches of the Fire Crow clan were standing. Like the Qing Yi clan's clansmen, there were also some leaders of other clans who had come to watch the ceremony. Master Priest, in the sacred ancestral worship ceremony, I, Ji Shu, challenge Ji Xia. Please, our clansmen and ancestors, be our witnesses. Ji Shu, who had been prepared for this, had officially launched the chief's challenge in this sacred ceremony. I didn't expect this. Qing Ming smiled and said, the Fire Crow clan is not as united as a whole. However, Qing Ming had already made up his mind that if there was a chance, he would definitely help Ji Hao. If the Fire Crow clan had a new leader, it would be hard to say if they would still be allies in the future. In the early days of the Qing Yi clan's rise, a powerful ally was necessary. Chapter 886. Bastard. Qing Ying, who was standing beside Qing Ming, stared at Ji Shu angrily. It was normal for Qing Ying to be angry. After all, Ji Xia, the current chief of the Fire Crow clan, was his brother-in-law. I haven't seen a chief's battle for many years. Qing Ming looked at Ji Shu with a big smile, then turned to Ji Hao's family and nodded. The Wood Emperor is indeed omniscient. He gave us a treasure before we came to the ceremony. It's perfect for this occasion. Let's go and have a look. Qing Ming and the other leaders were still allowed to move around since they were not formally worshiping the ancestral spirits. But once the ceremony started, they wouldn't be allowed to walk around. Otherwise, it would be regarded as a provocation. Qing Ming walked to Ji Hao's family with Qing Ying. Sister, brother-in-law Hao. As they approached, Qing Ying rushed over and looked at the three of them angrily. Jishu, this is outrageous. How could he? Don't say anything. He is following the rules of our ancestors. Ji Xiao waved his hand and interrupted Qing Ying. He looked at Qing Ming, smiled and nodded. You must be the new chief of the Qing Yi clan, Qing Ming. You are indeed a young hero. You are as old as Hao, but much more promising than him. Chief of the Qing Yi clan, Ji Hao glanced at Qing Ming and blinked his eyes. Should I say that he is indeed Illidan? Chief Qing Ming, the chief's battle is about to start. As a chief of a clan, I'm afraid it's not appropriate for you to come here at this time. Ji Xia stopped smiling and said to Qing Ming with a serious face. The chief's battle was about to start. Ji Xia had been injured many years ago and had fallen from the level of senior magus. Therefore, it was almost certain that he would lose to Ji Shu. As the chief of the Qing Yi clan, Qing Ming had come to Ji Xia's side. Once Ji Shu became the chief of the Fire Crow clan, Qing Ming would surely hate him. By then, the Qing Yi clan would have a hard time. We have been a family for a long time. If you lose, no matter whether I come or not, the result will be the same. So, why shouldn't I come? Qing Ming smiled faintly. Besides, you may not necessarily lose. It was not impossible to reopen a sorcerer aperture after it was broken. Uncle Ji Xia, don't you think so? Haha, that's right. You're qualified to be the chief of the Qing Yi clan with your eyesight. Ji Xia laughed out loud. I've been injured for more than 10 years. I haven't lived these 10 years in vain. Father, have you recovered your strength? Brother-in-law, did you reopen your wizard aperture? That's great. Ji Hao and Qing Ying's faces were filled with happiness. Uncle, bring this. Qing Ming took out a palm-sized piece of wood. It looked very ordinary and didn't have any wizard power at all. It was just an ordinary piece of wood. It's a protective talisman. It doesn't have much power, but it can protect you. Smiling, Qing Ming handed the wooden block to Ji Xia, smiled and said, Uncle, I wish you a victorious return. Thank you for your kind words. Ji Xia reached out to take the amulet and put it away in his bosom. Brother Ji Xia, how long are you going to wait? At this time, Ji Shu, who had already stepped onto the stage, raised a huge axe and yelled at Ji Xia. Are you not only not powerful enough to be the chief of the Qing Yi clan, but also have no courage to fight? You're just a piece of trash. What makes you qualified to be the chief of the Qing Yi clan? If you want to fight, I'll fight with you. Ji Xia stood up and walked towards the stage with big steps, ready to accept Ji Shu's challenge. Father, you can't lose. Ji Hao clenched his fists tightly. He was still very worried. Ji Shu, who was supported by the Baifeng clan, must have some powerful magic treasures. The result of his father's fight was still unknown. Don't worry. Pan Gu chuckled in Ji Hao's mind. It's not easy for your father to lose. What? Father, you're so powerful? Ji Hao trusted Pan Gu's judgment very much. If Pan Gu said that his father wouldn't lose, then his father wouldn't lose. But had his father become so powerful? Powerful my ass. You haven't even recovered your full strength. Pan Gu poured a bucket of cold water on Ji Hao's head. What? Then why did you say that you would win? Hearing Pan Gu's words, Ji Hao became even more worried. Because that kid from the Qing Yi clan is so generous. With that so-called protective talisman, your father can't lose even if he wants to. Protective talisman? That wouldn't block? Ji Hao was stunned. How can ordinary wooden block be so powerful? What on earth had this Illidan done? Ji Hao turned his head and looked at Qing Ming, who was talking to his mother, Qing Fu. Suddenly, Ji Hao felt that Qing Ming, who was about the same age as him, was unexpectedly mysterious. Although Ji Hao had been calling him Illidan, he knew that Qing Ming was definitely not Illidan. because the old man in his mind had already told him that Qing Ming's body and soul were both from this world, and that he didn't have any external power. Boom! At this time, the chief battle on the stage had already started. Ji Xia, the chief of the Qingyi clan, who had been injured 10 years ago, had his magus apertures broken and had fallen from the level of senior magus. The wizard apertures on his hands, feet, and back were like dazzling suns, bursting with endless light. A silhouette of a gold crow, which was wreathed in raging flames, spread its wings and cawed above Ji Xia's head. Chief is invincible. Seeing Ji Xia's power, some clansmen who were loyal to Ji Xia immediately cheered loudly. You've recovered your power? Ji Shu's pupils shrank, and his eyes showed a trace of coldness. Then, let's fight, Ji Shu shouted, and his body suddenly transformed into a stream of fiery light, darting into the sky. The scorching flame seemed to be able to melt gold and iron, and even the earth seemed to be burning into lava. Fight! Ji Xia laughed out loud and also leapt into the air. His body transformed into a ball of fire and fiercely bumped into Ji Shu. Boom! The earth shook violently, and the raging flames rose into the sky. If they weren't in the ancestral land of the Fire Crow clan, and if the gold black mountain wasn't covered by the power of the ancestors' souls, this entire area would have been turned into ruins. That scorching flame was strong enough to burn the entire mountain into lava. Even so, the people who were watching the fight on the stage felt as if they had fallen into a furnace. The power of a senior magus is indeed terrifying. Watching the fight on the stage, Qing Stix was secretly shocked. He was only one step away from becoming a senior magus. But why was the gap between him and a senior magus so huge? Why are you jealous of them? With my guidance, your path will be steadier than theirs. Now is the time for you to build your foundation. Don't rush to break into the next level. First, cultivate all of your meridians. Cultivate all of your 129,600 meridians. That's the way to become a Pan-Gu real body. Yes, I understand. Qing Stix nodded heavily. Only with a solid foundation could one go further. Of course, Qing Stix understood that. Chapter 887. Boom! It was an intense and ferocious collision. There were no fancy moves or techniques, no dodging or evading. It was just a head-on collision. This was the fighting style of the Fire Crow clan's berserkers. Simple and violent, no dodging, no running away, no fear, no flinching, just crushing all the enemies in front of them with the most violent strength. Their chests were thicker than the earth, their backs were straighter than the mountains, and their blood was hotter than lava. This was the fighting style of a berserker. Qing Ming's eye corners twitched when he saw this. This was always the fighting style of an assassin and an archer. Qing Ming couldn't understand this kind of barbaric fighting style, combining strength, speed, and skills into one, and controlling everything with wisdom. This was the essence of fighting. This fighting style of yours is too unskillful. Ji Hao had the same feeling as Qing Ming, but the old man in his head was very excited. Men should be like this. This is the fighting style of a real man. Kid, learn from me. Don't always think about dirty tricks. Don't always think about playing tricks. Crushing all the enemies in a fair and square way. This is the right way. Ji Hao's mouth corner twitched. I can easily defeat the enemies, but I still have to make my body bleed. I must be out of my mind to do this. Boom! Along with a loud bang, a figure was sent flying away, blood splashing all over the place. This was really hot-blooded. Every drop of blood was burning with a scorching flame that was as hot as magma. Ji Shu, you're still no match for my big brother. It seems that the position of the Fire Crow clan's leader is still mine. The fire was burning fiercely, and Ji Xia's body was also bleeding. However, for a senior magus, this kind of flesh wound could be healed within a short time. Big brother, it's too early for you to say this. Ji Shu laughed out loud, and his whole body was wrapped in raging flames. A strangely shaped, ancient modeled wooden stick appeared in his hand. When this wooden stick appeared, All the people in the Gold Black Mountain, no matter which clan they were from, all felt a throbbing in their blood and souls. What is that? At this moment, everyone couldn't help but look at the wooden staff in Jishu's hand. It looked very ordinary, ancient, and mottled. There was even a section of it that was slightly charred, as if it was a common fire stick in every household. Big brother, I'll let you broaden your horizons. I'll let you see what true strength is. Jishu raised the wooden stick with both of his hands, let out a shout, and smashed it down. He smashed out with his staff, causing sparks to flicker. Suddenly, a ball of fire burst out from the charred part of the wooden staff. This ball of fire was not blazing, nor was it magical. It wasn't a divine flame, nor was it an immortal flame, nor was it a deviant flame. It was as if it was an ordinary flame that could be seen everywhere. It was like a bonfire in the wilderness, like the fire in the hearth of a stove, like the lights of 10,000 homes in the dark night. However, it was precisely this ordinary mortal flame that possessed unparalleled power. This was the fire of humanity, the fire of civilization, the fire of the mortal world. With a swing of the staff, thousands of images appeared. Slash and burn cultivation, the inheritance of civilization. This swing of the staff brought out the civilization of humanity, the fire of the mortal world. This was the arduous journey of overcoming obstacles. This was the inheritance of civilization that could never be extinguished. The momentum of humanity was unstoppable. You have a shaman treasure. So do I. Under such monstrous divine might, Jixia did not flinch at all. He raised his head to the sky and roared. The golden crow let out a long cry, and flames surged. A wooden shield and a long spear appeared in Jixia's hands. Blazing golden flames rose on the wooden shield and the long spear. Kill! Facing the mighty fire of humanity, Jixia held the shield in one hand and the long spear in the other and charged forward without hesitation. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion sounded. Under the mighty fire of civilization, the wooden shield shattered, the long spear shattered, and the monstrous golden flames were instantly annihilated. Everything vanished into thin air. All of Jixia's efforts were in vain. There was nothing he could do to stop it. Ha ha! Big brother, you've lost. Jishu laughed wildly, his face twisted. You are dead. At this moment, everyone at the foot of the Golden Black Ridge was shocked. What was the origin of that fire stick? How could it be so powerful? Father! Jihao turned pale with fright and couldn't help but cry out. The old man's judgment must be wrong. How could such a powerful shaman treasure be stopped? Qing Ming, Qing Ying, and Qing Fu exclaimed at the same time. My son-in-law's victory is beyond doubt. Jiangfen stroked his beard and smiled, his face full of joy. At this moment, even Jixia felt that he was going to die. However, the result was beyond everyone's expectations. The mighty fire of civilization swept over everything unstoppably. However, when the flame reached Jixia's body, it suddenly stopped. Yes, the mighty and unstoppable fire of civilization had been blocked. On Jixia's body, the wooden piece that Qingming gave him lit up with a faint yellow light. The light was very faint, as if it could be extinguished with a breath. However, it was this bright yellow light that blocked the mighty fire of civilization, because it was a merit. Merit protected the body from all calamities. Huh, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Father's fine. Jihao yelled out in a wild joy. I told you. Your father can't lose, even if he wanted to. Merit protected the body from all calamities. Although it's very little, but who told him to use Suerin's stick? How could the fire of humanity attack a virtuous person? Merit? Qing Ming. Jihao turned his head to look at Qing Ming, his heart full of gratitude. In the end, he was on the same side, giving out such a precious treasure. He actually blocked it? This series of changes stunned everyone. How is this possible? How could you possibly block it? Jishu cried out in disbelief. Suerin's staff had infinite power. Although Jishu's strength couldn't even unleash 1/10,000th of its power, it wasn't something that an ordinary person could block. What did Jixia have to block it? I don't believe you can block it. Let's see how many more times you can block it. Jishu crazily waved Surin's staff, and the fire of civilization swept across the sky and the earth, cleansing the whole universe. However, this unparalleled flame avoided Jixia by a great distance. Jishu, you're still not strong enough to defeat my brother. At this moment, Jixia also knew that this was the effect of the amulet Qingming gave him. Because he didn't know how long this amulet could last, Jixia naturally wanted to end this battle as soon as possible. Come on, let's fight. Jixia roared, jumped up, and fiercely bumped into Jishu. The fire of civilization dodged in front of Jixia, as if it had broken through the sea of fire. Boom! A heavy fist smashed down, and Jishu, who had completely lost his will to fight, was instantly sent flying by this heavy fist. What was even more shocking was that Suerin's staff flew out of Jishu's hand and automatically fell into Jixia's hand. Of course, the reason for this was that the amulet in Jixia's pocket burst out another bright yellow light. The sacred treasures of humanity belonged to the virtuous. Big Bossly said, I really didn't cheat. I just wanted to study Suerin's staff. I changed the setting a little here. In the original book, Suerin's staff emitted the pre-world fire. I think the fire of civilization is more suitable for Suerin's identity. This is my opinion. If I offend you, please don't scold me. Chapter 888. Bastard. Jiangfen smashed the table in front of him. Today's worship ceremony had been a total failure. Back at the campsite, Jiangfen was so angry that he started to yell at Jishu. My daughter and my grandson are missing. You lost again, and you even lost Suerin's staff. I offered you such a good deal, but you couldn't even do anything for me? Tell me, what else can you do? What else can you do? Jiangfen was fuming with rage as he glared at Suchun. He was really angry. Baifeng was a magical beast with the power of fire, and Jiangfen was also a magical beast with the power of fire. Jiangfen was so angry that a 3-feet-high flame rose from his head. The other party is using an unknown artifact. Suerin's staff didn't work. Didn't you see it? How can you blame me for this? Jishu angrily glared at Jiangfen, and a few sparks came out of his nostrils. Enough! Jiangfen took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. He glanced in the direction of the golden-black mountain with a ferocious expression. I will not let this matter go so easily. I'm going to the Blood Moon. You stay here and wait for my message. The Blood Moon? We can't make a deal with him now. What are we going to do? Jishu paused and looked at Jiangfen confusedly. Who said we can't make a deal with them? They want slaves. Slaves? We can't do anything to Jixia now, but isn't the Qing Yi clan his relative? Jiangfen sneered and said, although we can't make as much profit by joining hands with the Blood Moon. But take it slow, we will kill Jixia sooner or later and take back the Fire Crow clan. Good. I also have a group of warriors who are loyal to me. Let's join hands with the Blood Moon and destroy the Qing Yi clan first. Jishu grabbed his axe and said with a ferocious face. At this moment, Qingming didn't know that someone was planning to invade his territory. After the worship ceremony, Jixia had taken over the Fire Crow clan again, and the relationship between him and the Qing Yi clan had become even closer. Good. The Qing Yi clan has gained a strong ally. In order for the Qing Yi clan to rise, they needed a strong ally. Before the Qing Yi clan was strong enough to take charge of a large area, the Fire Crow clan was an indispensable ally. In the end, I'm still not strong enough. Even though Qingming had gathered 50 senior-level mountain giants and ancient war trees, this force was still not enough. Compared to the Fire Crow clan, which was a large clan, not only was their population far less than the Fire Crow clan, but they were also far less powerful than the Fire Crow clan. After bidding farewell to Jixia, Qingming returned to the Qing Yi clan. Seeing the hundreds of thousands of Fire Crow clan's clansmen, hundreds of senior magi, Ji Hao couldn't help but frown. Qing Ming deeply realized that the Qing Yi clan still had a long way to go. Even a big clan like the Fire Crow clan wasn't one of the top clans in the southern wasteland. The Bai Fong clan, the Vermilion Bird clan, and the dominator of the southern wasteland, the fire god Zhu Rong clan. Those tribes were the most powerful ones in the southern wasteland. After returning to the Qing Yi clan, Qing Ming asked He Yao, the mountain giant, and Tai Tan, the ancient war tree, to gather their clansmen and strengthen the Qing Yi clan. He had also ventured deep into the great wilderness to hunt all kinds of savage beasts, absorb their energy, and open up the meridians in his body to strengthen his cultivation foundation. Opening up the 129,600 meridians one by one was a huge project. Qing Ming estimated that it might take him 1 or 2 years to complete this stage of building the foundation. Time passed slowly while he was busy. One day, when Qing Ming walked out of his room and was about to continue hunting, Hung Luo ran towards Qing Ming with a nervous face. Enemies. Ferocious enemies. Hung Luo's pretty face was pale. Qing Ming, I heard the forest crying. I heard the grass and trees howling. They told me that the enemies were coming. Barbarians. Thousands of barbarians. And other enemies, they said. Huge spiders. Barbarians? Spiders? Hearing Hung Luo's words, Qing Ming knitted his eyebrows. Spiders and whatnot, they must be the poisonous spiders in the southern wasteland. Those spiders could be easily dealt with by sprinkling some medicine on them. But barbarians were troublesome. Barbarians looked like human beings, but were twice as tall as human beings. They were strong and powerful, and they ate human beings. If Liu were here, he would definitely give barbarians a new name, such as man-eating monster. In this world, barbarians were similar to man-eating monsters. Adult barbarians were at least as powerful as junior magi. It was not strange for a dozen barbarian leaders and priests to appear in a large army of thousands of barbarians. If the Qing Yi clan hadn't obtained the mountain giant and ancient war tree, these barbarians would have been powerful enough to destroy the Qing Yi clan. But now, the enemies were powerful, but the Qing Yi clan was powerful enough to kill them. Woo! Qing Ming grabbed the horn tied around his waist, took a deep breath, and blew it loudly. Enemy attack. Hearing the horn, all the Qing Yi clan's clansmen were shocked. Young and strong men picked up their bows and jumped onto the city wall, while women and children hid in the castle. After the reconstruction, the Qing Yi clan now had a small city. Qing Ming, are the enemies coming? The old priest grabbed a wooden stick, hurried to Qing Ming, and asked nervously. Hengluo received news that over 1,000 barbarians are charging towards our territory. Qing Sticks nodded. Lord Priest, please lead all the wizards and prepare for battle. Barbarian birth. The old shaman took a deep breath, then nodded seriously and said, Don't worry, leader. I'll let those barbarians taste the power of our Qing Yi clan's witchcraft. Everyone took their positions and waited for the battle. Ayo, ayo, ayo. A barbarian's roar came from the forest ahead. One by one, the barbarians rushed out of the forest and appeared in front of everyone. Its huge body and enormous strength were intimidating. However, these barbarians seemed to be controlled by something. They were not like the barbarians in the past, who would swarm forward like bees. Instead, he was waiting outside the forest, as if he was waiting for someone's order. Barbarians with order? Qing Ming frowned slightly. He felt that these barbarians weren't ordinary. This battle wouldn't be easy. However, Qing Sticks didn't expect that his enemies were already having internal strife. Is this a joke? In the depth of the forest, a huge metal spider was standing on the edge of a cliff. A hatch was opened on the belly of the metal spider. A tall and slim man, who was wearing an exquisite silk robe and had 3 eyes on his head, raised his head and looked at the high wall and the castle in front of him, with a sneer on his face. Dear Lord Priest Jiang Fan, is this the small clan you mentioned? The 3-eyed man turned his head and looked at Jiang Fan and Ji Shu. A voice that sounded like a roaring wind came out from the erect eye on his forehead. A small clan with a castle? Lord Priest, are you kidding? Or are you telling me that your human race has already developed to the point that even a small clan has a castle? A cold light burst out from the erect eye on his forehead. Lord Priest, you're teasing a noble. You're teasing a noble of the U clan. Lord D. Luo, I swear 2 months ago, they didn't even have a castle. Besides, they only have one senior magus. Even if they had a castle, they wouldn't be able to stop your army. Jiangfen wiped the cold sweat on his forehead, turned his head, and threw a glare at Ji Shu, while silently cursing. Ji Shu, you bastard, you can't even get the information right. What a piece of trash. I hope your information is correct. The three-eyed man snorted coldly and said, The enemy has a castle. Many of my warriors must have been injured. Your share will be deducted by 20%. The three-eyed man ignored Jiangfen and Ji Shu, waved his hand and said, Pass my order. Attack. Ah! The barbarians howled and rushed towards the Qing Yi clan. A great battle was about to start. Chapter 889. Get ready to fight. Seeing Shang barbarian rushing towards them, Qing Ming raised a large flag, which was decorated with a pattern of a huge tree, and inserted it into the fence wall. Yes, sir. On the fence wall, archers of the Qing Yi clan pulled their longbows open and were ready for battle. Only 10 senior magi level barbarians. You want to attack our Qing Yi clan? You're still far from. Before Qing Ming could finish his words, he saw another group of enemies appear behind Sheng Man, who was charging towards them. Spiders. 10 tinjong tall, pitch black, gigantic spiders followed Sheng Barbarian and rushed towards the Qing Yi clan. Their legs were like huge spears, piercing the rocks under their feet and shattering them into pieces. 10 metal spiders were rushing towards the Qing Yi clan in an unstoppable manner. But this was not all. Behind the metal spiders, 200 heavily armored warriors, who were wearing metal armors and holding spears and axes, were rushing towards the Qing Yi clan in a square formation with heavy steps. Beside these heavily armored warriors, there was another group of people, over 300 muscular men, whose bodies were shining with fiery light, were following Sheng Barbarian, wielding huge axes and hammers. These muscular men, whose bodies were covered with flames, were obviously the Fire Crow clan's warriors. Metal spiders? Heavily armored warriors? And that's the Fire Crow clan? Seeing this, Qing Ming frowned and said, The Fire Crow clan attacked us together with Sheng Barbarian, and those metal spiders and those heavily armored warriors, where did they come from? In the southern wasteland, no one had ever seen such exquisite things. The exquisite armors worn by those heavily armored warriors were not something that could be found in the southern wasteland, not to mention those metal spiders. Even the fire god Zhu Rong clan, the dominator of the southern wasteland, had rough armors and weapons. Such exquisite armors, which were even engraved with exquisite patterns, were not something that could be made by the southern wasteland clans. Could it be the three-eyed ghost and the four-eyed ghost? In the southern wasteland, non-humankind slave-hunting groups often attacked and killed small clans. Some of these non-humankind beings had 3 eyes, while some had 4 eyes. Therefore, the southern wasteland people called these non-humankind beings three-eyed ghost and four-eyed ghost. Barbarians, the non-humankind, and some people from the Fire Crow clan, are they all together? Qing Ming let out a cold snort and said, Our Qing Yi clan is not the Qing Yi clan anymore. Anyone who dares to invade the Qing Yi clan's territory will die. Sorcerer attack. The living barbarians, who were at the forefront, were already close to the city wall. Destiny waved his hand and ordered the Magi team behind him. Bramble Forest. Release. The old shaman took all of the Qing Yi clan's Magi and started chanting incantations and casting spells. Streaks of green light shot out and landed on the ground in front of the city wall. Shwa! A ball of green light suddenly burst out from the ground. Countless thorny vines rose up and formed a thicket of thorns on the ground in front of the city wall. The thorny vines were covered with countless thorns and thorns. It was a daunting sight. However, Shang Man was a monster who didn't know what was in his head. Once he went crazy, even if it was a mountain of swords or a sea of flames, he would still charge forward without hesitation. Ayo, ayo, ayo. Shang Man, who had rushed into the thicket of thorns, was bleeding all over from the thorns and thorns. However, he didn't flinch at all. Instead, he rushed forward even more fiercely. For Shang Man, who had rough skin and thick muscles, these superficial wounds were nothing. So you're all dead. Qing Ming sneered and waved his hand. Tai Tan, it's up to you. For the tribe. The 30 ancient trees surrounding the walls instantly stood upright and uttered a roar into the sky. Green light surged out like a raging tide. 30 ancient war trees, who were at the level of senior magi, joined forces to cast the wood element spell. As the green light swept across, the thicket of thorns that had been activated by the magi suddenly grew crazily. The thorny vines were like angry dragons, twisting and twisting ferociously. The thorns were like short spears that pierced deeply into Shang Man's body. Tighten, tear, strangle. Ayo! Waves of shrill howls were heard. Blood, bones, and flesh splashed everywhere. Within a short moment, except for the 10 senior magi, who were still breathing, the rest of the barbarians were all smashed into pieces by the thorny vines. What? 1,000 barbarians were all killed within a second. Seeing this, the metal spiders, heavy armored warriors, and fire crow warriors who were following behind the barbarians were all stunned. 1,000 barbarians were killed within a second. How could such a small clan have such a terrifying power? Is this what you meant by only one senior magus? The 3 eyes on Di Luo's head had already turned green due to anger. Bastard! You stupid pig! Those are 30 senior magi. Do you think 30 senior magi are one? Where did your eyes go? Lord Di Luo, Jiang Fun, and Ji Shu were sweating all over. Since when did the Qing Yi clan have such a great power? Attacking a castle guarded by 30 senior magi. Unless I bring the entire Blood Moon mercenary regiment here, it's suicide. Di Luo snorted heavily and continued. I will remember everything that happened today on your heads. Dear priest, I hope that your wealth is enough to compensate for my loss. Di Luo slapped on the metal spiders and shouted, Retreat! Retreat now! Hearing Di Luo's order, the metal spiders and heavy armored warriors hurriedly changed their battle formation and started to retreat. Want to run? You can't. Qing Ming's gray eyes showed a cold intention of killing. He waved his hand and said, Hey Yao, attack! Boom! The ground started to shake violently. It was as if an earth dragon had turned over the earth. The whole ground started to shake violently, as if it had turned into a raging ocean. In fact, it was almost the same. When the earth began to tremble, an earthy yellow halo rippled out, and the entire earth suddenly became like a water surface. The thick ground became like a water surface. Then, those heavy and gigantic metal spiders, those heavily armored warriors, and those Fire Crow Clan's warriors, all of them felt as if they had fallen into the water at this moment. No matter how hard they struggled, they could only sink into the ground miserably. Ah, damn it! Damn it! Seeing this, Di Luo almost vomited blood. Bastard! These are 50 senior magi. Those are 50 senior magi. The barbarian army was wiped out, the metal spiders are gone, and the Jia clan's heavy armored warriors are gone. My brother will kill me. Di Luo touched his forehead, turned around, and looked at Jiang Fun and Ji Shu, and said, I hope you have enough wealth, otherwise, you are dead. I swear, if you can't compensate for my loss, you are dead. Jiang Fun and Ji Shu were scared out of their wits. Didn't the Qing Yi clan only have one senior magus? Weren't they just a small and weak clan? Where on earth did these 50 senior magi come from? How could the Qing Yi clan be so powerful? How could they be so powerful? They were supposed to be easy targets. Why did they end up kicking an iron plate? Chapter 890. Everyone attack. Ching Sticks knew that he should take advantage of the situation and chase after the enemy, and wipe out the remaining enemies. He immediately gave the order, and led the 30 ancient war trees and the Qing Yi clan's archers, jumping down from the city wall and chasing after the enemy. Ching Sticks, they're right in front of us. With Hengluo as a natural radar, Hengluo had eyes and ears everywhere in the southern wasteland jungle where there were flowers and trees. Although this distance was limited by Heng Luo's power and was only 20 miles in radius. But this was enough. From the east attack, Ching Sticks and a group of archers jumped onto the branches of the ancient war trees. The Qing Yi clan's archers were standing on the 30 ancient war trees. The huge ancient war tree took a step forward and chased after them with a rumbling sound. Every ancient war tree was actually a treeman transformed from a 10,000-year-old tree. Each ancient war tree was at least 1,000 feet tall. The roots of the ancient war trees coiled around their huge legs, and each step they took could cover hundreds of feet. Although the ancient war trees looked clumsy, they were actually very fast. In a short while, Ching Sticks caught up with Di Luo and the others, who were running in panic. It was a huge metal spider, which was covered with golden patterns. Beside this metal spider, there were 5 heavily armored warriors in silver armors and Jiang Fun and Ji Shu, who were scared out of their wits. Although these silver-armored warriors' faces were covered by their helmets, 4 eye sockets could be seen on their helmets. Obviously, these silver-armored warriors were the 4-eyed monsters that the southern wasteland people had been talking about. Treemen? 30 senior magi, level treemen? Seeing those huge ancient war trees, Jiang Fun and Ji Shu, who were southern wasteland natives, immediately understood what was going on. The Qing Yi clan was still the same Qing Yi clan as before. However, they didn't know what method they had used to summon so many tree men to help them. Spirit of the forest, I am a priest of the Bai Fong clan. This battle has nothing to do with you tree men. Please leave. Before Jiang Fun could finish his words, he was interrupted. We are not tree men. We are ancient war trees. For the clan, the ancient war trees let out a series of angry roars. Whoosh, whoosh. The archers standing on the ancient of war tree finally released the first arrow in this battle. Arrows rained down. As a warrior of the Qing Yi clan who was famous for his archery skills, of course, he had excellent archery skills that matched his status. Unfortunately, their strength was still too weak. Most of these archers were at the level of novice magi, and a small number of junior magi were no threat to these senior magi at all. Boom! Jiang Fun let out a stream of raging flame, which was strong enough to melt gold and iron. Even the ground under Jiang Fun's feet was turned into lava, not to mention the arrows shot by the Qing Yi clan's archers. They couldn't even get close to him. The arrows were all burned to ashes. Jiang Fun had taken the attack of all the Qing Yi clan's archers by himself, without the help of any of the others. However, the main fighting force of the Qing Yi clan wasn't these archers. For the tribe, the 30 ancient war trees roared and waved their huge arms, which were intertwined with branches, towards the enemies in front of them. These ancient war trees were all senior magi, level treemen. Although the 5 silver-armored warriors and Jiang Fun were also senior magi, there was a huge gap between their numbers. Boom, boom, boom. Streams of green spell symbols burst out from the huge fists of the ancient war trees and fiercely smashed towards the few warriors. The fighting skills of these silver-armored warriors are not ordinary. Under the siege of a group of ancient war trees, the 5 silver-armored warriors were leaping and moving, wielding their swords and shields. Although it was quite difficult for them to deal with the attacks, they were still able to do it in an orderly manner. It was as if every move and style had been tempered thousands of times. There were no superfluous movements, and they were clean and neat. It was a complete display of the high degree of harmony between strength, speed, and technique. It seems that they were born to fight. These 4-eyed ghosts are indeed extraordinary. Qing Ming nodded and said, but they are not without weaknesses. They only have strong bodies and good close combat skills, but they can't use magic power. They were different from the Southern Wasteland warriors. Even the Fire Crow clan's berserkers were born with the power of fire and were able to attack with the power of fire. However, these four-eyed ghosts only used physical strength in their attacks and didn't have any magic power. Of course, it was possible that they were using another kind of power, but at least they couldn't use magic power, which was an obvious weakness. Titan used magic to deal with those four-eyed ghosts. Since close combat was the enemy's advantage and magic was their weakness, Qing Ming naturally knew what to do. Okay, Titan heard Qing Ming's order and hurriedly informed the other clansmen to use magic to deal with the silver-armored warriors. Boom! Spell symbols burst out from the branches of the ancient war trees that were attacking the silver-armored warriors. Trants were born with all kinds of innate magic spells, and they smashed towards the silver-armored warrior. Countless roots and vines emerged from the ground and coiled towards the silver-armored warriors. Wooden spears, spikes, exploding fruits, and even poisonous clouds smashed into the silver-armored warrior's body. As expected, under this round of attack, the silver-armored warriors couldn't resist anymore. After being coiled by the roots and vines, although the iron shell of the warrior was strong enough to block the wooden spears, thorns, and exploding fruits, it couldn't block the poisonous clouds. After being shrouded by the poisonous clouds, the silver-armored warriors could only die miserably. The classic scene of a poor warrior being played to death by a powerful magician was vividly shown. Not to mention that these were a group of magicians who were better at close combat. Mercy. Jiang Fun was besieged by a few senior-level ancient war trees. After blocking a few attacks with his magic tools, he couldn't hold on any longer and was smashed into the ground by Titan's fist, turning into a meat patty. Seeing this, Jishu hurriedly begged for mercy. I know a pure gold mine, a rich mine that produces pure gold and jade. I'll tell you the location. Mercy. Mercy. Oh, a mine that produced pure gold and jade would surely be very beneficial to the Qingyi clan. Qing Ming was very interested in this mine. Titan, get him. Thorns and vines swooshed out, tied Jishu up, and carried him in Titan's hand. All right, let's end this wrong conflict. At this moment, a hatch opened on the metal spider's belly. Di Luo, who had 3 eyes, nodded to Qing Ming with an elegant smile on his face. This is all a mistake. Di Luo pointed at Jiang Fun, who had been smashed into a meat patty, and Ji Shu, who had been tied up like a rice dumpling. He smiled and shook his head. I was deceived by them. That's why I attacked your territory. As a noble of the Di family of the Yu clan, I admit defeat. Then, according to the tradition of the nobles, I have the right to redeem myself. Therefore, my dear lord, please state your conditions. Let's end this wrong conflict peacefully. Nobles? Tradition? Qing Ming laughed out loud. I think you've made a mistake. Pointing at the ground under his feet, Qing Ming smiled and shook his head. This is the southern wasteland, our land. You're just invaders. Besides, there are no nobles in the southern wasteland. Chapter 891. You want to kill me? You're just a leader of a southern wasteland tribe. How dare you kill me? Di Luo paused for a second, then said with a fierce face, I'm a noble from the Di family of the Yu clan. We, the Di family, are in control of the Blood Moon Army. If you dare to kill me, the Blood Moon Army will be furious. Your territory will be scorched, and your clansmen will all die. You better think it through. I'm sorry, I don't even know what the Blood Moon Army is. Qing Ming smiled and shook his head. I only know that you're an enemy. There's only one way for southern wasteland people to deal with enemies who invade their homeland. That is, kill. Boom. Once Qing Ming finished his words, the ancient war trees and the archers on the trees launched their attacks simultaneously. Bastard, you uncivilized barbarians. Although this so-called noble was also a senior magus, facing the joint attack of 30 ancient war trees, he had no power to resist at all. In this desperate situation, Di Luo's face was twisted, and a beam of light burst out from the erect eye between his eyebrows. Die! Let's die together. Di Luo roared crazily, while a roaring sound came from his erect eye. Numerous, sparkling, and translucent wind blades roared out from his erect eye. Like a tornado, the wind blades swept across the sky. The wind blades were extremely sharp, and wherever they swept across, rocks and trees were all shattered into pieces. Even the ancient war trees, which were attacking Di Luo, had their branches chopped into pieces. Is this really a powerful attack? The wind blades that burst out from Di Luo's erect eye were extremely powerful. If it weren't for the ancient war trees, Qing Ming and the group of archers would have been smashed into pieces by this attack. However, with 30 ancient war trees on the scene, Di Luo's last attack was just like this. Buzz, a green screen of light lit up. Titan led a group of ancient trees and unleashed shaman power, forming a barrier of light that firmly trapped this tornado of wind blades. Boom! After being sealed, the tornado couldn't continue its rampage and finally exploded. The tornado rolled up countless pieces of debris and scattered into tens of thousands of palm-sized wind blades, which shredded everything within a radius of 100 feet and even created a deep hole on the ground. Barbarians, you're dead meat. After all, the anger of the Blood Moon Legion has descended upon you. My brother won't let you off. Di Luo's last life-risking attack didn't even work. Di Luo yelled and cursed loudly. The fury of the Blood Moon army? I'll be waiting. Qing Ming sneered as he raised the bow in his hand. Intruder, I'll send you to hell. Swish! The arrow left the bowstring and shot through the air. Di Luo had already used up the last bit of his power. He had completely lost the power to resist and could only watch the arrow pierce through his throat. After struggling for a few times, Di Luo fell to the ground. Clean up the battlefield. Qing Stix waved his hand. Following his move, the war tree sprouted numerous branches, rolled up the metal spider, the silver-armored warrior, and Di Luo's dead body, and brought them back to the base. Victory! 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 When Qing Ming returned to the residence of the Qing Yi clan, everyone in the Qing Yi clan cheered. This was an unprecedented victory. 1,000 barbarians, 500 powerful enemies, and nearly 20 senior magi had all been killed by the mountain giants and the war tree. At this moment, everyone was showing the highest respect to Qing Ming, the leader who had brought miracles. Long live the leader! Everyone in the Qing Yi clan, including the old shaman, bowed to Qing Ming. For the clan, standing on the iron sandalwood branch, Qing Ming raised his arm and shouted loudly. All right, this slogan seemed to be spreading. Qing Ming, what should we do with these iron things? At this moment, the old shaman pointed at the 10 metal spiders, 300 heavy armors and weapons, and 200 fire crow warriors' weapons piled up on the square of the castle. As for those who had used these weapons, it was needless to say. Hey Yao, the mountain giants and the old shaman's magi team would never let them live. Make some modifications. These armors, weapons, and metal spiders can all be used. Qing Ming walked into the square and saw those exquisite armors, weapons, and metal spiders. A faint smile emerged on his face. Modifications? The old shaman paused and shook his head with a bitter smile. In the southern wasteland, perhaps no one could make such an exquisite and luxurious armor, and no one could make such an exquisite weapon like the metal spider. If they wanted to modify them, they wouldn't even know where to start. The armors and weapons of the heavy armors were made according to the body shape of the four-eyed ghost, which was the Jia clan. The Jia clan warriors were taller than the Qing Yi clan's warriors. They were comparable to the Fire Crow clan's warriors. If they weren't modified, they couldn't be used at all. Leave it to me. I have an idea. Qing Ming walked to the pile of metal spiders and waved his hand. The pile of metal spiders disappeared instantly. Lord Wood Emperor, how should I modify and remake these things? Following the instructions of the Wood Emperor, Qing Ming put these things away, but he was still confused. This is the War Hall. The Wood Emperor showed a strange building in Qing Ming's mind. You choose a house, and I'll make the War Hall. When the time comes, everyone in your clan will be able to make armors and weapons in the War Hall. Besides, Magi will be able to make all kinds of potions in the war hall. The so-called war hall was the combination of the tool-making pavilion and the pill-making room of Big Boss Lee. The war hall was out. Big Boss Lee was going further and further down the evil path of Warcraft. Great! Qing Ming was overjoyed when he heard the Wood Emperor's words. He had to admit that the non-humankind's tool-making skills had already surpassed the human races, who were still at the primary application of materials stage. Solid armors and sharp weapons were things that the human race in the southern wasteland dreamed of. In reality, the human race's armors were sewn with animal skins. The human race's weapons were crudely made with animal bones and all kinds of other materials. The human race's weapons were stupid and clumsy. Once the Qing clan built the war hall, they would be able to make all kinds of exquisite weapons and potions, which would be endless wealth. Well, the human race didn't even have a currency at the moment. The internal trade was bartering. The external trade was using the non-humankind's currency. Boom! In the middle of the colorful light, a beautiful and elegant hall rose from the ground on the side of the square, where the warehouse used to be. My clansmen, this is the foundation of the Qing clan's rise. This is our war hall. After Qing Ming had made a huge non-humankind sword into an exquisite and sharp longsword, he raised the longsword and announced the good news to all the clansmen. Victory! All the Qing clansmen, who had witnessed the whole process, cheered loudly. Solid armors, sharp weapons, and enough potions. At this moment, everyone knew that the Qing clan would have a glorious future. Chapter 892. We must clearly realize that we are still very weak. After finishing all the chores, Qing Ming summoned the elder priest, Qing Ying, and a few other leaders to the meeting hall. Qing Ming sat on the main seat and glanced at the others with a serious face. Although we have defeated the invaders, there are still more powerful forces behind them. The Qing clan still has a long way to go. We are all leaders of our clans. Don't be complacent. We have to face the reality. Yes, at this moment, everyone, including the elder priest, was convinced by this young and naive leader. He didn't let the victory go to his head. Instead, he calmly analyzed the current situation. This was the quality of a leader. I have learned from Jishu that there is a mine that is rich in gold and jade. After ringing the alarm bell, Qing Ming released another piece of good news to boost the morale of the people. Even Liu couldn't help but praise Qing Ming. This guy was born to be a leader. It seemed that he was born with the ability to control the situation. I have sent He Yao to check it out. He Yao only told me one thing. Too many. Too many. They are everywhere. Hearing Qing Ming's words, everyone burst into laughter. After spending some time together, the Qing clan people had a clear understanding of the mountain giants. These giants were made of stone, and even their brains were made of stone. Therefore, they didn't have much hope for intelligence. This is a rich mine. The amount of gold and jade it produces is enough to fill the entire Qing clan's encampment. Wow, great. So many? We are rich. Hearing this, everyone cheered. Gold and jade were the best materials for making armors and weapons. Jade contained abundant magic power. More importantly, these were all precious things and could be used as currency. With so many treasures, the Qing clan could be said to have become rich overnight. I'm going to share this mine with the Fire Crow clan. After everyone cheered, Qing Ming made an unexpected decision. Why? Everyone stopped laughing and looked at Qing Ming with confusion. Why would our wise leader share his wealth with the Fire Crow clan? Even though the Fire Crow clan's leader had a close relationship with the Qing clan, they were still two different clans. Have you been blinded by wealth? Do you think our Qing clan can afford such a huge amount of wealth? If we take it all for ourselves, the surrounding tribes will definitely hear the news and come to besiege us. Qing Ming knocked on the table and said, "Should we ask the Fire Crow clan for help?" And then, even if the Fire Crow clan sent out their troops to help, the Fire Crow clan wouldn't be able to stop them. What happened after that? Are you going to let them come here for nothing? Hearing Qing Stix's explanation, everyone was not stupid. They instantly understood. The Qingyi clan was still too weak. Occupying such a large amount of wealth would definitely attract covetous eyes. Not to mention anything else, the Blackwater Serpent Clan's bandits would never let go of this opportunity to rob them. The Blackwater Serpent Clan was the enemy of the Fire Crow Clan, and the two clans were equally powerful. With the power of the Qingyi clan, it was impossible for them to defeat the Blackwater Serpent Clan. By then, he would have to ask the Fire Crow Clan for help. Little Brother benefited from it, but I didn't think of Big Brother. Little Brother was beaten, but came to ask Big Brother for help. What do you want this Big Brother to think? Chief, you are so wise. Everyone bowed to Qing Ming's decision. No one had any objections to it. Uncle Qing, you go to the Fire Crow Clan and tell Ji Hao, yes, Ji Hao, about this news. Follow his instructions. Qing Ming asked Qing Ying to talk to Ji Hao first for a reason. After a few contacts, Qing Ming found that Ji Hao was one of the few wise and cunning people in the Fire Crow Clan. Cooperating with Ji Hao was much more beneficial than cooperating with Ji Xia, because Ji Hao would never selflessly hand over all the mines to the Fire Crow Clan. By then, it would be normal for the Fire Crow Clan to work together to hide the production of the mines. A day later, Qing Ming and Ji Hao met. Is this the Coldstream Valley? Ji Hao, who was still dressed like a beast, leapt down from the back of a four-tusked mammoth and landed on a cliff. He raised his head and looked down at the valley, smiled and nodded. Brother Qing Ming, your Qingyi clan is so loyal. You even shared these treasures with us. You are indeed one of us. Ji Hao was fiddling with a piece of gold in his hand, while looking at Qing Ming with a smile. You and I are one of us. Qing Ming glanced at Ji Hao and said, we are one of us, of course. We should share the benefits. Huh. Ji Hao laughed and understood what Qing Ming meant. He patted on Qing Ming's shoulder and said, good brother. Once the agreement was reached, the following work went smoothly. 10 mountain giants were sent to the Fire Crow Clan. With their special ability of sculpting rocks, they built the fence wall, the city, and the mine. Within only a few days, the mine in the Coldstream Valley had already taken shape. The Fire Crow Clan was indeed a big clan. They had sent over 40,000 warriors, including over 10 senior magi and 10 gigantic fire crows. Of course, Qing Ming couldn't be stingy. He left a few mountain giants to work underground and share the spoils with Ji Hao. He also asked Qing Ying to bring 5,000 archers and 2 ancient war trees. As for the other forces, he didn't show them. After all, the Qingyi clan was only a small clan. It wasn't easy for them to bring out so many forces. You are in charge of this place? When everything was ready, the Fire Crow clan had left Ji Hao in charge of the mine. This made Qing Ming laugh weirdly. This was like putting a mouse in a barn. The output of this mine would most likely be severely reduced. As the son of the Fire Crow clan's leader, it is my duty to take care of such an important place. Ji Hao's speech was so impassioned that the corner of Qing Ming's mouth twitched. You are awesome. Qing Ming gave a thumbs up to Ji Hao, then took out a set of armor and a heavy sword, threw them to Ji Hao, and said, for you. These are made by the Qing-Yi clan. Don't tell anyone about this. You can make such good stuff? Looking at the exquisite and sturdy armor in front of him, and the sharp and exquisite heavy sword, a strange thought suddenly popped up in his mind. This guy, is he really Illidan? Look at these weapons and armors. Aren't they exquisite and delicate? Isn't this the style of the elves? All right, our big boss Lee's prank is still going on. Illidan, how do you know how to make armors and weapons like this? Ji Hao looked at Qing Ming confusedly. In the southern wasteland, everything was in a rough style. It was impossible for those barbarians, who had more muscles than brains, to make such exquisite armors and weapons. Illidan? What do you mean? Qing Ming didn't understand Ji Hao's weird words at all. Nothing. Ji Hao curled his lips and said, I mean, how can you make such things? In the entire southern wasteland, even the armors and weapons of the fire god Zhu Rong clan aren't as exquisite as this. This is my secret. I'll take you to see it when I have the chance. Qing Ming smiled. The reason why he released this information was that he wanted to use Ji Hao's connections to sell these things. With the Qingyi clans, War Hall, and the gold mine, the Qingyi clan would have countless armors and weapons in the future. Of course, he had to find a way to sell these things. Wasn't the Fire Crow clan the best trading partner? Chapter 893. My brother, that stupid and useless idiot, is dead. This was a huge valley. In the valley, there was a city that was built with metal. Nearly 1,000 Jia clan's warriors had gathered here. Some of them were patrolling, some were cultivating, and some were chatting. The only thing they all had in common was that the four eyes on their faces were shining with a cold, merciless light. In the city that was built with metal components, there was an exquisite palace. This palace was extremely spacious and could easily hold over 1,000 people at the same time. In the palace, the floor was covered with thick white carpets, and exquisite swords and shields were hanging on the walls. In the four corners of the palace, there were also tens of luxurious full-body armors that were embossed with exquisite patterns. At the moment in the palace, over 10 men were sitting in the palace. They were all wearing luxurious clothes, and each of them had an erect eye sparkling between their eyebrows. Within those eyes, one could see the different colors of wind, frost, lightning, and thunder. At the very top of the hall, there was a young man sitting on a golden chair. He was handsome and dignified. In fact, when you returned to Yudu City, your brother, Lord Di Luo, seemed to have accepted a business deal in private. A man in luxurious clothes, sitting on the left side of the chair, smiled and shook his head. As you can see, after accepting that business deal, your brother disappeared. At the same time, 10 gigantic spider puppets, 300 Jia clan's warriors, and all barbarian slaves disappeared. Saying this man smiled and continued. Of course, those barbarian slaves can be ignored. But 10 gigantic spider puppets and 300 Jia clan's warriors, this is a huge loss. As one of the shareholders of the Blood Moon mercenary group, I am deeply concerned about this. Yes, Lord Di Sha, you should know that the shareholders' interests are not to be infringed. Of course, Lord Di Sha, you have a bright future, and you are one of the successors of the Blood Moon mercenary group. Therefore, we still believe that Lord Di Sha can compensate us for our loss. The group of three-eyed Yu clan's warriors all expressed their opinions. Although they said it in a euphemistic way, the meaning of compensation was quite obvious. I got it. Di Sha nodded and said, don't worry. Profit is what we are after. Otherwise, wouldn't it be better for us to live a peaceful life in Yudu City? Why would we come to this barren land and suffer? Therefore, I will definitely compensate you for your loss. We have full confidence in you. The group of nobles nodded in agreement with smiles on their faces, and then went to inform the others. Di Luo, that idiot, is dead. After everyone had left, the smile on Di Sha's face had disappeared. Instead, his face had become extremely ferocious. This brother of mine is both stupid and greedy. There was a time when even I couldn't wait to kill him. But, no matter what, he is still my little brother, a descendant of the Di family. If anyone dares to kill him, I will exterminate their entire clan. Black light burst out from the vertical eye between his brows. A blood-red moon slowly rose from the dark cloud-like light. Monstrous blood, chi covered the sky and covered the earth. In that direction, was Di Luo's soul destroyed in that direction? Very good. Di Sha slowly closed the erect eye between his eyebrows, took a deep breath, and said, come on, search all barbarian clans 3,000 miles away from the west. Yes, the Jia clan's warriors, who had been standing outside the hall, took the order and left. Since you have killed my little brother, I will bury your blood and souls with him. Di Sha clenched his fist and squeezed the exquisite golden cup into a ball. A cold, murderous aura burst out from his body. Kill! Kill these bandits! Fire crows cawed loudly one after another. The scorching flames burned the surrounding ground into charcoal. Arrows swooshed across the air. Fire Crow clan's warriors, whose bodies were covered in flames, roared and rushed towards the bandits. This is the 5th attack this month, isn't it? In the village of the Coldstream Valley, Jihao let out a long sigh, glanced at Qing Ming, and said, I understand now. You definitely did this on purpose. You knew this would happen, didn't you? The mine in the Coldstream Valley had officially started production. Even though a large amount of the mine had been confiscated by the two black-hearted guys, piles of gold and jade were still produced. When these gold and jade were sent back to the Fire Crow clan, the entire clan was shocked. Those Fire Crow clan's barbarians were all loudspeakers. When they were drinking and bragging, the news naturally spread out. Therefore, the Coldstream Valley had already been attacked a couple of times this month. According to my estimation, it would take at least half a year for this news to spread out, right? Who would have thought that your Fire Crow clan's barbarians couldn't even hold on for a month? Qing Ming curled his lips helplessly. His face was also gloomy. With such a big mouth, did the Fire Crow clan still have any secrets? He was afraid that all of their secrets had been dug out. All right. Jihao rubbed his forehead. He was also speechless. Jihao had a deep understanding of the Fire Crow clan's barbarians. To put it nicely, they were simple and honest. To put it bluntly, they were brainless. Would they die if they didn't go out and brag? Now that it come to this, what a bunch of bastards. We can't go on like this. Jihao shook his head and said, those who have come here now are all small clans. I'm afraid that the Blackwater Serpent clan has already known that the Coldstream Valley is rich in gold and jade. They will definitely launch an attack. What else can we do? Ask for help. Qing Ming shook his head. Once the Blackwater Serpent clan launched an attack, the Coldstream Valley wouldn't be able to defend themselves. Even if Qing Ming had used all of his resources, including the mountain giant and the ancient war tree, he still wouldn't be able to defend against the Blackwater Serpent clan. It's the first time for me to be on my own. I can't believe that I have to ask for help. Jihao shook his head and waved his hand. A huge fire crow landed beside Jihao and said, Mr. Crow, you go back. Tell Abba to bring some people here. We're in trouble. When Jihao and Qing Ming were asking for help, an unexpected enemy showed up as well. War Di Sha, we've got a message. A Jia clan's warrior reported to Di Sha. You asked us to investigate the clans 3,000 miles away in the west, and we've found them. The Fire Crow clan, the Blackwater Serpent clan, and the rest are all small clans. While speaking, the Jia clan's warrior handed a scroll to Di Sha. Lord Di Sha, we found that the Fire Crow clan has found a rich mine that is rich in gold and jade. The nearby clans are joining forces to attack the Fire Crow clan's mine. And your brother went missing in that area. Gold and jade? Di Luo went missing in that area too. Di Sha took over the scroll and opened it. Even he was shocked by what he saw. So much gold and jade. Damn it. How could such treasures fall into the hands of the barbarians? In Di Sha's opinion, Di Luo's disappearance must be related to this mine. Di Luo was greedy and stupid, so he would definitely launch an attack after discovering this mine. Then he would be torn into pieces by the barbarians. Send out my order. Summon all mercenary groups in the southern wasteland. We'll join forces and make a big deal. Both the Fire Crow clan and the Blackwater Serpent clan were big clans, and the Blood Moon mercenary group wasn't powerful enough to conquer them. At this moment, joining forces was inevitable. According to the rules of the Blood Moon mercenary group, as the convener, they would get the biggest share of the loot. The profit from this mine would be much more than what they could earn by catching slaves for a few years. Therefore, a war caused by bragging was about to start. Chapter 894. What Emperor have you made the pure spirit pill? Qing Ming went back to his room after finishing the discussion. Suddenly, he heard the Wood Emperor's voice saying that the pure spirit pill had been made. Qing Ming was overjoyed. The so-called pure spirit pill was a kind of pill that could improve one's cultivation, which was made from the essence blood of senior magi. In the previous battle, the Qingyi clan had killed 10 senior magi level barbarians and 5 silver armored warriors. including Di Luo and Ji Shu. The Qingyi clan had gained 17 portions of senior magi blood in total. There was a recipe for pure spirit pill in the war hall. It could be made into a pill that could improve one's cultivation. A single pill could help a peak-level junior magus to break into the senior magus level. At the moment when the Qingyi clan was in dire need of fighting power, this pure spirit pill was a timely help. 8 pure spirit pills? 2 portions of senior magi's essence blood for 1 pill? That's a good deal. 2 portions of senior magi's essence blood could help a new senior magus in the Qingyi clan. Qingming was very satisfied with this. Big Boss Li said, "I've only deducted half of it, which is already very generous. Let me try one first." Through the Wood Emperor, Qingming could use the war hall anytime, anywhere from anywhere. Therefore, it was very normal for him to take a pill from the war hall. A beam of light flashed across, and a red pill appeared in Qingming's hand. The pill was as big as a pigeon's egg, perfectly round and glowing brightly. Holding the pill in his hand, Qingming could feel the vigorous life force contained in it. No wonder it's made from senior magi's essence blood, such a strong life force. Qingming praised, then opened his mouth and swallowed the pill. A stream of hot air flowed down his body, and a great life force was surging inside his body like a raging tide. Qingming hurriedly sat on the ground with his legs crossed, and started to absorb the power of the pill. The power of the pill flowed into Qingming's body, like rivers flowing into the sea. The pill flowed through his meridians along the route of his cultivation. His meridians were broken one by one, and meridians were penetrated. When the pill had consumed all of the pill's power, 30% of Qingming's 129600 meridians had been penetrated. With 2 more pills, I'll be able to pierce through all the meridians in my body. Very good. Currently, according to the cultivation method of the orthodox humankind and orthodox Pangu taught by the Wood Emperor, Qingming needed to open up all of his meridians at the junior level. Normally, it would take another year or so to complete this process. But didn't he have the vital essence pill now? In a spurt of energy, Qingming took out 2 more pills. After swallowing 3 profound spirit pills in a row, Qingming's meridians were all connected after he had completely absorbed the medicinal efficacy. Boom! It was as if a thunderclap had exploded beside his ears, and a vast wizard power surged violently in his meridians and ran through his entire body. At this moment, his entire body was translucent. Between breaths, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth swarmed over. It was as if his body had become a huge whirlpool, and every breath he took was able to gather the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. He was no longer restricted to the original wood element spiritual energy. He could absorb, control, and manipulate all the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. As expected, this is the true Pangu lineage. After all of his meridians were connected, Qingming officially displayed the true Pangu lineage. It was as if he had turned into the beloved child of heaven and earth, and every move he made resonated with heaven and earth. His strength has undergone an earth-shattering change. Previously, Qingming's strength was still far from that of a senior wizard. But now, even though he hadn't really opened his wizard aperture and become a senior wizard, he had strength that far exceeded that of an ordinary senior wizard. The reason why a senior wizard is so powerful is that after opening his wizard aperture, he can sense heaven and earth through his wizard aperture and draw the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Now, even without opening his wizard aperture, I can draw the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. More importantly, after opening one wizard aperture, he could be called a senior wizard. Even if a senior wizard's cultivation was profound, it was already the limit for him to open hundreds of wizard apertures. However, Qingming had connected all the meridians in his body, and, at the level of senior magus, he could open 129,600 magus apertures. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. As expected of the true Pangu lineage, Qing Ming was very grateful to the Wood Emperor for teaching him the true Panga lineage. Only with such a foundation could he be qualified to reach the peak of this world. There are 5 essence pills left. These pills should be used to improve the strength of the clan. Putting away the pills, Qing Ming stood up and walked out of the room. He found Hung Luo in the woods outside the Coldstream Valley. Hung Luo, come, I'll give you a treasure. Waving his hand at the wood spirit, who was sitting on a vine and swinging, Qing Ming took out a pill and handed it to Hung Luo. When the war was about to start, Hung Luo's talent would be very helpful to the war. Of course, Qing Ming wanted to improve Hung Luo's cultivation first. Hung Luo was born with the ability to communicate with plants. Once she became a senior wizard, the range of her communication would be wider. By then, the whole Coldstream Valley would be under Hung Luo's control, and she wouldn't have to worry about any sneak attacks. Is this the pill? Hung Luo jumped down from the swing and took over the essence pill from Qing Ming. She sniffed it and nodded with a smile. What a rich life force. It's very useful for my growth. Thank you, Qing Ming. Opening her mouth and swallowing the pill, Hung Luo's body emitted a burst of green light. It was like a cloud, like mist, like haze. The green light around Hung Luo's body was surging and rolling. After half an hour, the green light disappeared and Hung Luo's figure appeared again. Her tall and slender figure was graceful and curvaceous. More importantly, right now, Hung Luo was naked. As a wood wraith, Hung Luo's entire body was covered in vines. She was naked to begin with. Now, after she became a senior wizard, even the vines were gone. This incomparably beautiful scene caused Qing Ming's eyes to stare blankly as he was dumbstruck. Do I look good? Hung Luo twisted her waist and smiled. Yes, yes. Fortunately, Qing Ming, who was in a daze, answered unconsciously. Go to hell. Her slender and fair long legs kicked Qing Ming in the chest and sent him flying. However, Qing Ming had double eyes. Even if Hung Luo's kicking speed was fast, it was as slow as a snail in Qing Ming's eyes. Therefore, the moment Hung Luo lifted her leg, he saw everything he should see. As for what he saw, Qing Ming wouldn't say it, even if he was beaten to death. Of course, the author didn't dare to describe it either. With a bang, Qing Ming fell to the ground. His face was red as he hugged his head and ran away in a sorry state. As for Hung Luo, her face was also red. With a wave of her hand, a green light flashed and a wrought tan armor appeared on her body. Hung Luo stomped her feet and whistled. The red leopard instantly landed beside her. However, the leopard's eyes contained a hint of a smile. Go to hell. Hung Luo sent the leopard flying with another kick. Chapter 895. Qing Ming, the enemy is here. 2 days later, when Qing Ming had just stepped onto the fence wall, Hung Luo jumped on the back of a red leopard and landed beside Qing Ming. Snakes. Lots of snakes. There are other enemies as well. Lots of them. They're everywhere. After becoming a senior magus, Hung Luo's ability to communicate with plants had increased. However, plants were brainless and could only send simple messages. Finally, they are here. It wasn't surprising that the enemy would attack, but this time, it must be the Blackwater Serpent clan. Except for them, no other clan had snakes as their beasts. Ji Hao, get ready. The enemy is here. Qing Ming hurriedly found Ji Hao and informed him about the enemy's attack. Damn it, how come they're so fast? Hearing the news, Ji Hao's face darkened. Although he had already sent a message to the Gold Black Mountain and asked Ji Xia to bring people to help, the enemy's attack was too fast. But now, the enemy's attack was even faster, and the reinforcements hadn't arrived yet. We have to stop the enemy's attack before the reinforcements arrive. Putting on their armors and holding their heavy swords, Ji Hao and Qing Ming gave the order to fight. The Fire Crow clan and the Qing Yi clan's warriors all took their positions and were ready to fight. Boom, boom, boom. The heavy footsteps shook the ground, and the woods fell down and sawdust flew in the air. A group of huge armored bulls rushed out of the forest with a rumbling sound. On the backs of these bulls, there was a tall and muscular man who was wearing a horned helmet and holding a huge axe and stick. A flag with a bull's head was fluttering above the battle formation. The barbarian bull clan. Seeing these muscular men, Qing Ming frowned and said, "The barbarian bull clan is a neutral clan, but even they have joined the battle. Money can move people's hearts." Ji Hao snorted and gripped the heavy sword in his hand. Boom! Boom! Another thunderous roar resounded through the air. Around the Coldstream Valley, numerous battle flags were raised high, and groups of murderous warriors rushed out of the woods. The Tusk Tiger Clan, the Raging Lion Clan, the Wind Eagle Clan, and the Ghost Clan, the Demon Clan, the Goo Clan. Damn it! All these guys hiding in the deep mountains and forests had come out one by one. Ji Hao and Qing Ming raised their heads and saw those battle flags that had been put up around the Coldstream Valley. Their faces instantly darkened. The Ghost Tribe, Demon Tribe, and Venomous Insect Tribe. These three tribes almost never interacted with the outside world. These three tribes were extremely terrifying. The Ghost Tribe and the Demon Tribe were like ghosts, while the Venomous Insect Tribe was good at using poisonous insects. In the Southern Wasteland, they could be considered as an unconventional tribe. The main character hasn't arrived yet, and we're already in a tight encirclement. This battle won't be easy. Qing Stix raised his head and scanned the surroundings. He saw that the Coldstream Valley was completely surrounded by groups of ferocious-looking warriors who had their battle flags raised high. These few tribes actually came out in full force. There are at least 100,000 of them. None of the tribes surrounding the Coldstream Valley were large tribes. Several tribes joined forces and gathered 100,000 warriors. They had already turned out in full force. Only 40,000 Fire Crow Clan warriors and 5,000 Qing E Clan archers were guarding the Coldstream Valley. Including the ancient war tree and the Fire Crows, there were less than 30 senior magi in total. Facing this 100,000 allied forces, they were already nervous, not to mention the Blackwater Serpent Clan, which was even more powerful and terrifying. Boom! Under the Coldstream Valley, Tianshui light suddenly burst out from the river that flowed through the valley, as if the entire river had been lifted up. Hiss! Giant snakes over 100 zhang long, pitch black and emitting icy auras burst out from the icy water. They stuck out their crimson tongues and roared into the sky. Black-clothed people, who were wearing snakeskin-tight clothes and holding snake-tooth swords, rushed out from the light behind the gigantic snakes. A gigantic white flag with a black snake on it was raised high in the air, releasing a cold, murderous aura. The Blackwater Serpent Clan has finally arrived. At this moment, all the enemies had gathered, and a great battle was about to break out. Fire Crow Clan, the Coldstream Valley is a public area, not your Fire Crow Clan's territory. All of our clans have a share of the mine here. A man in a black cloak was standing on the head of a gigantic black snake. His whole body was releasing a cold, watery mist. He pointed at the Coldstream Valley and yelled loudly, "Hand over the mine, or we'll kill every single one of you." The man in the black cloak raised a bone wand, which was carved with snake patterns, in his hand. Tianshui Qi gathered on the bone wand, and the watery light surged out like a raging tide. "Hand over the mine! Hand over the mine! Hand over the mine!" The enemies, who were all over the valley, let out earth-shaking roars together. Their voices were as loud as a tsunami and a landslide. Such a great roar could make anyone's face change color. Damn it! That's the Blackwater Serpent Clan's great priest, Blackwater Yuan. He and that snake of his are both peak-level senior magi. The Fire Crow Clan and the Blackwater Serpent Clan had been enemies for generations. Of course, Ji Hao knew about the Blackwater Serpent Clan. The power gap between two senior magi was huge. A senior magus with 1 magus aperture, or 100 magus apertures. However, the power gap between them was hundreds of times. In the Southern Wasteland, a peak-level senior magus like Blackwater Yuan, who had opened nearly 100 magus apertures, was already an overlord. Facing such a peak-level power, the Coldstream Valley couldn't resist at all. Fire Crow Clan, are you going to hand over the mine or not? Streams of watery light gathered on the bone wand, and a vast ocean appeared above Blackwater Yuan's head. As long as he swung the bone wand, this vast ocean would be smashed into the Coldstream Valley. With the power of a peak-level senior magus, it was possible for him to destroy the entire Coldstream Valley with a single strike. At that time, except for the senior magi, who could survive, all the others would be killed. However, it was impossible for Ji Hao and Qing Ming to hand over the Coldstream Valley. The Coldstream Valley is our territory. It's impossible for us to hand over the Coldstream Valley. If you want to fight, let's fight. Ji Hao and Qing Ming glanced at each other and nodded heavily. This time, they had no choice but to risk their lives. Fight! Blackwater Yuan glanced at Ji Hao and Qing Ming coldly, but didn't launch the attack directly. Instead, he waved his hand and gave the order. Just as I thought, he doesn't want to destroy this mine either. Seeing that Blackwater Yuan didn't launch the attack directly, Ji Hao and Qing Ming both let out a sigh of relief. As long as it wasn't that irresistible power, they still had a chance to fight. Kill! Battle cries shook the sky. As soon as the black water turtle gave the order, all the warriors from different clans roared, raised their weapons, and rushed towards the Coldstream Valley. Ka! A group of Wind Eagle warriors launched attacks from the sky. On the ground, the Barbarian Bull Cavalry, the Saber-Toothed Tiger Cavalry, the Furious Lion Cavalry, and the Pitch-Black Mist, along with the ghastly roars, swarmed towards the Coldstream Valley like a tidal wave. Kill! Warriors of the Coldstream Valley roared and waved their weapons. The war had officially started. Caw! Caw! Fire crows raised raging flames and rushed towards the Wind Eagles. Swoosh! Swoosh! Archers of the Qing Yi clan released a rain of arrows. For the clan, countless ancient war trees burst out cyan light, and countless thorny vines twisted and intertwined. Blood splashed, sharp blades whistled, and crazy roars sounded. The entire Coldstream Valley was set ablaze with the flames of war. Chapter 896. Ha ha ha! There was a shrill ghost howl. As the black clouds churned, a ghost-like figure instantly appeared behind Qing Ming. A pair of sharp ghost claws viciously clawed at Qing Ming's back. It was a senior magus of the Ghost Clan. The Ghost Clan's way of cultivation was different from the other clans in the Southern Wasteland. They raised ghosts. The combination of human and ghost promoted to a senior magus. Qing Ming looked like a half-human and a half-ghost. This kind of ghost-like sneak attack was the specialty of the Ghost Clan. This attack was as fast as lightning. However, a beam of silver light suddenly appeared in Qing Ming's gray eyes. The power of his double pupils had been fully activated. Even though the attack was as fast as lightning, it was as slow as a snail in Qing Ming's eyes. Clang! Qing Ming's body flashed. The exquisite and sharp long sword in his hand emitted a beam of cold light, piercing towards the throat of the Ghost Clan senior magus. This attack was launched later than the Ghost Clan senior magus. If the senior magus didn't change his attack, his throat would be pierced first. Kid, I'm a senior magus of the Ghost Clan. I can't die. The senior magus of the Ghost Clan, who was half human and half ghost, had the body of a ghost and was in a half-dead state. Ordinary swords and knives couldn't hurt him at all. Therefore, this senior magus didn't care about Qing Ming's sword at all and kept clawing towards Qing Ming with his pair of ghost claws. Unfortunately, he was wrong. Boom! The sword pierced through the senior magus's throat, and a dazzling light burst out from the sword, like the sun, sweeping away all the darkness. Ah, you! How did you? He wasn't a Fire Crow Clan senior magus. How could he use the Sun True Fire, which was rarely seen in the Fire Crow Clan? With a belly full of doubts, the great sorcerer was instantly burned to ashes. The sun is very bright today. Qing Ming shook his sword, turned around, and rushed towards the battle formation in front of him. With the Pangu magic created by Li Yu, Qing Ming had connected all of his meridians and was able to trigger the power of nature. The sun was shining brightly today, and the Wood Emperor had reminded him that the sun's fire could suppress evil ghosts. Qingming surely knew how to deal with it. In one sword strike, the scorching sun above his head burst out with a power similar to the great sun true fire, and then the great evil ghost shaman was killed. Roar! A golden, gigantic lion opened its gigantic mouth, baring its fangs and biting down towards Ji Hao. This was a senior Magus-level gold lion, one of the best beasts in the fierce lion tribe. While Ji Hao was fighting against the Toothed Tiger Clan's warrior in front of him, this golden lion abruptly leaped up, intending to launch a sneak attack and kill this young man, who seemed to be the leader of the Toothed Tiger Clan's warriors. After my 9 syllables mantra was sublimated, the forward syllables can already see the key moment. You want to ambush me? I wanted to beat him at his own game. Sneering in his heart, Ji Hao pretended to be caught off guard and stepped back in a panic. Actually, the heavy sword in his hand was already tightly gripped, and the ice-cold blade emitted a cold light. Power overlay, 10-fold explosion. After the sublimation of the 9 syllables mantra, the wholeness syllables had the power of overlay, and the power of 10-fold explosion was terrifying. Under the guidance of Pan Gu, he had merged the blood of the dragon and phoenix, and had a trace of Pan Gu's true body. Although Ji Hao was only a junior magus, his power was not to be underestimated. Under the 10-fold explosion, this seemingly ordinary sword strike actually contained a terrifying power. Never had 10-fold explosion been thought to exist in this world. This gold lion's fate was very miserable. Roar, blood splashed, and a miserable howl shook the sky. The gold lion, who had pounced on Ji Hao, was hit by this fierce and violent heavy sword. From the chin to the stomach, this strike almost cut the gold lion in half. Even if a senior magus had strong vitality, he couldn't withstand this kind of injury. After a few howls, the gold lion died. Boom! The huge ancient war tree and the hundreds of feet-long black water serpents were entangled in a fierce battle. The battle between the two huge beasts caused the surrounding stones to fly and the earth to shake. Caw! Caw! 10 fire crows, which were covered in raging flames, chased the winged eagles in the sky away. However, the partial victory couldn't cover the overall disadvantage of the battle. There were too many enemies. Besides, there were way too many senior magi. Over 100,000 warriors and over 200 senior magi. The overall power of the Blackwater Serpent army was many times greater than that of the Coldstream Valley. Boom! The iron-armored bulls of the Barbarian Bull clan finally broke a city wall of the Coldstream Valley. Kill! Through the broken city wall, countless warriors of the Allied forces rushed in like a flood. It's over. The city wall is broken. Qingming and Ji Hao, who were in the middle of a fierce battle, saw this scene almost at the same time. Their hearts sank. Once the Allied forces occupied the Coldstream Valley, if they wanted to take it back, they would have to wipe out all the Allied forces in an all-out war. Otherwise, they would never be able to take it back. Damn it! While roaring, Ji Hao swung his sword and chopped down a Blackwater Serpent Clan's warrior. The anger in his heart was about to rush to his head. Titan, gather the ancient war tree. Get ready to break out of the encirclement and retreat at any time. Seeing that the situation was hopeless, Qingming surely wouldn't waste his remaining strength here. The Qingyi clan was not rich enough to afford such a loss. Caw! 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 At this moment, the fire crows who were fighting against the winged eagles in the air suddenly cawed out loudly. How dare you attack our fire crow clan's territory? You're courting death. The mighty golden flames were like a raging tide that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Thousands of gigantic fire crows flew towards the Blackwater Serpent army. On the back of the first fire crow, a tall and sturdy man was holding a half of a black stick in his hand. He roared and smashed it down. Boom! An earth-shaking boom was heard. The raging flame covered the sky like a raging flood, sweeping across the whole world. It was unstoppable. This was the staff of Swearin, the fire of humanity, the fire of civilization, the fire of the human world. The surging tide of flames was vast and mighty, sweeping across the land and blocking the universe. Under this wave of raging flames, all the enemies outside the Coldstream Valley were shrouded in this monstrous flame. Over 100,000 warriors of the Allied army were all covered in the raging flame and were burned by it. The bulls were burned to ashes, the saber-toothed tigers were burned to ashes, and so were the Blackwater mystical snakes. However, after all, Suiren was the holy emperor of the humankind. His fire of human Tao didn't do too much damage to the human race. Even so, the Allied army was burned black by the raging flame and fell to the ground one by one, howling in pain. With a single strike, he had wiped out 100,000 warriors of the Allied army. Victory! At this moment, cheers burst out from the Coldstream Valley's army, which was in a precarious situation. The Fire Crow clan's warriors and the Qing Yi clan's archers had all burst with inexhaustible power. On the contrary, the Allied army, which had just broken into the Coldstream Valley's army, were all scared out of their wits. Wiping out 100,000 warriors with a single strike, this was beyond the power of a senior Magus. Magus King, seeing such a great power and hearing the howls from the outside, the warriors who had broken into the Coldstream Valley's army were all scared out of their wits. They dropped their weapons and kneeled on the ground to surrender. However, there was one person left. That was the peak-level senior Magus of the Blackwater Serpent clan, Blackwater Yuan. Chapter 897. The Blackwater Turtle didn't die. He wasn't even hurt. It didn't mean that Suiren's staff wasn't powerful. On the contrary, Suiren's staff was very powerful. According to another description, Suiren's staff was an epic-level fighting staff. It could double the attack power on creatures other than human beings. Therefore, even though Jixia couldn't give full play to the power of Suiren's staff, and the attack covered a large area. However, all the beasts of the Allied forces were burned up by the fire. Even though the attack power wasn't too great for human beings, it still burned 100,000 soldiers to the ground. What kind of magic treasure is this? How can it be so powerful? The Blackwater Turtle was shocked. His mount was also dead. The Blackwater Serpent was also a peak-level senior Magus, one of the most powerful beings in the Southern Wasteland, but it was also burned into ashes by the fire. The Blackwater Turtle took the opportunity to escape from the coverage of the fire. This is definitely a magic treasure above the level of Magus King. The attack range was so large, and it was so powerful. It was definitely a magic treasure above the level of Magus King. As the High Priest of the Blackwater Serpent clan, the Blackwater Turtle surely knew a lot about magic treasures. Therefore, he was not only shocked by this magic treasure, but also found its weakness. You'll be lucky if you can use this magic treasure once when it's fully activated. The Blackwater Turtle sneered. The water vapor gathered on the bone staff suddenly burst out. I'd like to see what else you can do to block my attack. Go to hell. The staff smashed out, as if the Milky Way was poured down, as if a vast ocean was overturned. 100,000 soldiers were all killed. The attack on the Coldstream Valley mine could be considered a failure. At this moment, the Blackwater Turtle didn't care if he destroyed the mine or not. Since he couldn't get the mine, he might as well destroy it. Boom! The water light covered the sky and covered the earth. A peak-level senior Magus spell burst out with unparalleled power. Under the attack, the sky and the earth seemed to collapse. What? The defenders of the Coldstream Valley, who had just let out a sigh of relief, were frightened by the scene. Under this attack, the entire Coldstream Valley would be in ruins. As for the people in the Coldstream Valley, it was still unknown whether any of them could escape. Damn it! Seeing this overwhelming watery light, Jixia was both angry and anxious. Just now, at the critical moment when the Coldstream Valley was about to be breached, he unleashed all of his power and activated the Staff of Suiren with all of his strength, creating a peerless record of annihilating 100,000 soldiers with a single strike. However, after this attack, Jixia had used up all of his strength and could barely stand. Seeing that the Coldstream Valley was about to be destroyed by this spell, Ji Xia became very anxious. Uncle, the amulet! At this moment, Ji Xia suddenly heard Qing Ming shouting from below. Amulet! Ji Xia's eyes lit up. The amulet and the staff of Swearin had been in his hands for some time, and he had also discovered the connection between the two. He no longer had the power to activate the staff of Swearin. Could he use the power of the amulet to activate the staff of Swearin? At this critical juncture, there was no time to think. Ji Xia grabbed the amulet and pressed it on the staff of Swearin. Then, he swung the staff and smashed it down without caring whether it was useful or not. Boom! Raging flames filled the sky. This time, the flames that burst out were very different from before. Above the smoke and fire of the mortal world, the image of the ancient holy emperor, Swearin, appeared. It was an ordinary old man. He didn't have a tall and imposing figure, nor did he radiate divine might. He seemed to be just an ordinary old man next door. He had a skinny body, a wrinkled face, a sparse beard, and large, rough hands. In his hand, there was a ball of fire. This was the fire of civilization passed down from generation to generation. This was the arduous journey of overcoming all obstacles, and this was the unyielding will of the human ancestors to fight against the heavens and the earth. One day, the fire of human Tao would sweep across the world. With this expectation and hope, this ball of fire erupted with brilliant light, sweeping across the world and setting the plains ablaze. The overwhelming water vapor from the blackwater turtle's witchcraft evaporated instantly under the human Tao Saint fire, dispersing into nothingness. Even the blackwater turtle himself was burned to ashes by the fire. A treasure of karma could kill people without karma. Using karma to activate a sacred item of human Tao, there was no problem that its power would be reduced when attacking humans. Victory! The crisis was solved with one strike, and the blackwater turtle, a peak-level senior magus, was killed with one strike. This made all warriors of the Coldstream Valley burst into thunderous cheers. As for the 100,000 wounded warriors, they were all scared out of their wits. Victory! 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 The cheers were like tide water, shaking the earth. Phew! Qing Ming and Ji Hao glanced at each other and let out a long sigh. Finally, the problem was solved. This battle had already established the invincible name of the Fire Crow clan. From now on, if anyone dared to attack the Fire Crow clan or the Coldstream Valley again, they would have to think twice about whether they could survive this attack or not. This battle would bring peace for at least 10 years. Unfortunately, sometimes things didn't go as you expected. You thought the war was over, but in fact, the war had just begun. Buzz, on a plain below the Coldstream Valley, streams of mysterious light interweaved with each other, forming a huge magic formation out of thin air. The magic formation burst out streams of light and vibrated intensely, causing the surrounding mountains to echo. What's going on? The Coldstream Valley people, who had just let out a sigh of relief, were startled by this strange phenomenon. Boom! Under everyone's shocked gazes, a bright stream of light burst out from the magic formation, as if the air itself had been torn apart. A series of cracking noise came out, and a huge, pitch-black crack appeared in the middle of the magic formation. Boom! 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 Neat and heavy footsteps echoed. Teams of heavily armored soldiers wearing exquisite armor and holding shiny swords and sabers stepped out of the void cracks. They were full of murderous intent. Endless. There was no end to it. Countless heavily armored warriors, who were wearing neat armors, rushed out from the crack like tidewater. Behind the heavy armored soldiers, there were also huge, ferocious-looking metal spiders. At first glance, thousands of metal spiders rushed out from the crack. Behind those metal spiders, there was a metal centipede, which looked like a huge dragon. On the back of this metal centipede stood over 100 non-humankind beings who were wearing luxurious silk clothes and had 3 eyes on their heads. Three-eyed ghost. Four-eyed ghost. After seeing the faces of these non-humankind beings, everyone knew who they were. These were the invaders of the non-human kind. These were the devils who had committed all kinds of crimes. These were the ferocious and terrifying devils. A total of 50,000 Jia clan warriors, 1,000 metal spiders, and 100 Yu clan nobles. According to the military system of the non-human kind, every small troop of 50 people had a senior magus as its leader. 1,000 senior magi were among the 50,000 Jia clan warriors. Added with the 100 Yu clan nobles, they were all senior magi. Also, because of their 3 eyes, they were even more powerful than ordinary senior magi. 1,000 senior magi, 50,000 Jia clan warriors, 1,000 metal spider puppets, and 100 3-eyed Yu clan warriors. This force was enough to destroy most of the clans in the southern wasteland. Now, the Cold Stream Valley warriors, who had been through a series of fierce battles, were exhausted. How could they resist such a powerful enemy? Chapter 898. Lord Disha, you're right. Standing on the back of the metal centipede, the group of Yu clan nobles smiled and nodded to Disha. That fiery light indeed had the power of a Magus king. However, they can only use that kind of magic tool once or twice at most. Now, they can't use that kind of magic tool anymore. Disha was holding an exquisite sword, smilingly pointed at the Coldstream Valley, and said, "Everyone, that's the mine. Do you see it? The river flowing with golden light. Of course, only nobles like us can have such a treasure. How can we let it fall into the hands of barbarians?" "Exactly," seconded. Seeing the golden light shining in the Coldstream Valley, the group of Yu clan 3-eyed ghosts' eyes turned green. "Then, send my order attack." Disha pulled his sword out of the scabbard, pointed it at the Coldstream Valley, and yelled, "Wipe out the enemies! Kill! Kill! Kill!" The battle cries shook the sky. 50,000 armored warriors and 1,000 metal spiders marched towards the Coldstream Valley with heavy steps. Luxuriously decorated flags rose from the battle formation one after another. High towers with the blood moon emblem, high tower with the thunder emblem, high tower with the blood eye emblem. Over 100 flags, representing the family emblems of all the Yu clan nobles who were standing on the metal centipede and watching the battle. Damn it! These non-human kind devils are trying to take advantage of the situation. The group of Coldstream Valley nobles gnashed their teeth in anger. However, they had just gone through a great battle and were already exhausted. Now, they were facing a much more powerful non-humankind devil. This battle would definitely be very difficult. In fact, everyone knew that they would definitely lose. Unless Ji Xia could use the Staff of Swearing again, they would definitely lose this battle. "I can't use it anymore." Ji Xia looked at Qing Ming and Ji Hao with a bitter smile, then loosened his hand. The talisman turned into a pile of sawdust and fell to the ground. In the previous battle, everyone had almost exhausted all of their strength. As for the Fire Crow and the other senior Magi-level beasts, they couldn't use the Staff of Swearing because they weren't human beings. Therefore, this peerless magic weapon couldn't release any of its power and could only be used as a fire stick. If we fall into the hands of the non-human kind, we'll all be sold as slaves, living a life worse than death. Qing Ming pulled out his long sword and shouted, "Everyone, we can only fight to the death. Fight to the death." Everyone in the Coldstream Valley regained their fighting spirit. They dragged their tired bodies and raised their weapons again, preparing for the upcoming fierce battle. It's just a last-ditch struggle. It's meaningless. Disha raised the sword held in his hand while a beam of blood-red light burst out from the erect eye between his eyebrows, along with which an overwhelming sense of power rose from his body. "Everyone, let us use the blood of these barbarians to prove our bravery." Disha let out a thunderous growl while wielding his sword. Blood-red light burst out from the erect eye between his eyebrows, and a blood-red moon darted out from the edge of his sword, fiercely smashing towards the city wall of the Coldstream Valley. This is a glorious battle. The group of Yu clan people responded one after another. Dazzling lights burst out from their erect eyes. lightning, storm, frost, flames one after another. Powerful magic spells flew out from the hands of those clan nobles and smashed towards the Coldstream Valley. Dodge! Over 100 powerful magic spells smashed towards the Coldstream Valley like shooting stars. The power of these magic spells was way beyond the power of ordinary senior magi's magic. This was the innate ability of the U-Clan people. The third eye between their eyebrows was born with the ability to communicate with a natural power, and was born with the ability to cast powerful magic spells. Boom! Even though the Fire Crows were desperately defending themselves in the air, they could only block a part of the magic spells. The rest of the magic spells heavily smashed on the city wall of the Coldstream Valley. Broken stones splashed everywhere, and the ground shook violently. The entire city wall collapsed, and the Fire Crow warriors who were guarding this part of the city wall were instantly turned into ashes. God's power! God power! God power! The army of armored warriors roared and rushed towards the Coldstream Valley with a rumbling sound. Fight to the death! Jihao grabbed his heavy sword and rushed up while roaring. Fight to the death! At this moment, everyone in the Coldstream Valley rushed towards the crack on the city wall. They knew that this might be the last battle of their lives. Ha ha ha! Those stupid barbarians! How dare they fight against the Jia clan's heavy infantry? They don't know anything about war. The Yu clan's nobles, who were watching the battle from the back of the metal centipedes, all laughed out loud. There was no doubt that they would win. This would be a glorious victory. Countless slaves, countless pieces of fine gold and fine jade. All of this was wealth. War and plunder were indeed the best ways to get rich. Kill all barbarians. 50,000 armored warriors roared, and their bodies emitted a strong blood-red aura. Their ferocious, brutal, crazy, and violent auras covered the entire sky. This was a group of executioners with blood on their hands. Those mercenary groups, which have been ravaging the southern wasteland for many years, had their hands stained with the blood of countless southern wasteland human beings. 50,000 heavily armored warriors, led by 1,000 senior magi, were not something that the exhausted warriors of the Coldstream Valley could resist. After this battle, corpses would be everywhere, and blood would flow like rivers. If nothing unexpected happened, the entire Coldstream Valley would be slaughtered. But there would definitely be accidents. Qing Ming and Ji Hao, one was the host chosen by Liu, the other was the savior chosen by Nuwa and Pangu. How could he let them die here? Who dares to kill my clansmen? An earth-shattering roar came out. A hazy yellow light flashed, and a man, who was about 30 years old, suddenly appeared in front of everyone in the Coldstream Valley. He wasn't tall. He was a head shorter than the Fire Crow clan's big men. However, this not-so-tall body was as sturdy as a mountain. He was like a towering mountain standing in front of everyone. That broad back was like a towering mountain, forever blocking in front of everyone, forever protecting this land and the people here. He was also dressed in an ordinary way. He was wearing a coarse linen shirt, a pair of linen shoes, and a black iron heavy sword in his hand. Nothing special about him was special. However, the three words Si Wenming scared the 50,000 armored warriors and the Yu clan's people so much that they screamed out, Si Wenming! Why'd he come to the southern wasteland? Run! At this moment, the formation of 50,000 armored warriors, which was filled with an overwhelming aura of killing, collapsed instantly. The 50,000 armored warriors screamed and fled in panic. The ones who ran even faster were the Yu clan's people on the metal centipedes. When they heard the three words Si Wenming, their faces turned pale, and they screamed and turned around to run. Intruders, this is the land of our humankind. The mountain-like man slowly raised the black iron long sword and said, In here, we are the masters. He swung the sword. It was as if the whole earth had been turned upside down by this sword. It was as if the power of the whole earth had been condensed into this sword. Bang, 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 bang. The sword swung across. No matter if it was the fleeing armored warriors, the gigantic metal centipedes, or those Yu clan's nobles who had run far away. Everything was crushed into powder by tremendous force. Everything was crushed into powder by this sword. This was Si Wenming. This was Yu the Great. Chapter 899. There are no accidents or coincidences in this world. Liu withdrew his gaze and smiled. Si Wenming's arrival was naturally not an accident, nor was it a coincidence. It was inevitable and destined. This is the effect of luck and merit. In essence, luck and merit were a kind of heaven and earth rule. According to the rules of this world, those with great luck and virtue would have a higher probability of success in anything that was beneficial to them. Thus, Si Wenming happened to travel to the southern wasteland and happened to see the human Tao, sacred fire, soar into the sky. He happened to appear at the most critical moment. This time, I didn't do anything. Everything is natural. However, even if it was natural, this inevitable scene would occur. Liu had mastered all the rules of the creation Jade Disc. In essence, he was equivalent to Pangu. Liu's chosen host was naturally the destined one. As for Jihao, he still had Pangu sitting in his sea of consciousness. That was even more the destined one. Turning misfortune into luck and misfortune into prosperity, this kind of thing was inevitable. It is said that the children of luck can pick up divine artifacts by stepping on a stone. Liu smiled and didn't pay any more attention to this. After consuming the Dragon Clan's merit and Pan Shi's merit, I finally turned Pan Shi's understanding of the chaos into my own understanding. Fusing with the Wuji seal of the primordial Lord of Heaven can be considered to have allowed me to understand some of the characteristics of the chaos. With a wave of his hand, an inexplicable fluctuation flashed across Liu's hand. Infinitely big and infinitely small. It was as if all space was condensed and all space was spread. Infinite chaos. This was a characteristic of the chaos that Liu had comprehended. Infinite, immeasurable. It was impossible to measure the size of the chaos with any quantity, any unit, or any method, because the concept of size did not exist in the chaos. All size, distance, height, and up were meaningless in front of the chaos. Therefore, Liu now had the ability of infinite chaos. All the logic of big and small, near and far, high and low, up and down did not exist in front of Liu. Closed was the end of the world. Sumi is a mustard seed. There was no such thing as size or distance. Liu could ignore all the concepts of big and small, near and far, high and low, up and down in the world. Take the simplest example. Liu was now in the shape of an ordinary person. However, as long as he wanted to, he could instantly become larger than a world. In the next moment, he could become even smaller than a speck of dust. No wonder Pan Shi's body could turn into a huge continent. No wonder these Pangu were able to transform into their own worlds. This is the characteristic of the primordial chaos. The harvest this time was not bad. Liu was able to comprehend a part of the characteristics of chaos. But it was still far from the true primal chaos. Moreover, according to Liu's prediction, the final chaos had a checkpoint of existence and non-existence. Liu was going to transform into chaos, and in the final moment, what kind of existence was he? What does it not exist? This was a big problem. Behind these invaders, there is a being called Panyu. He is also a Pangu and a top-notch Pangu at that. If Liu wanted to comprehend the primordial chaos, he naturally had to target these Pangu. Liu's next plan was to capture this Panyu and study him fiercely. In fact, in Pan Shi's diary, there were a few similar existences. For example, Pangu, who created a world of water, and Pangu, who created a world of metal. But these won't work. A world with extreme attributes meant that these Pangu had only mastered a single law of great Tao. Their understanding of the primordial chaos was completely worthless. Just like the Chaos Dragon's great Tao of slaughter and destruction, these extreme attributes were too one-sided for the primordial chaos. Even if they were used as a reference, they were meaningless. If we want to target Pan Yu, we have to lure Pan Yu out of his nest and make him feel no danger. Liu chuckled, then turned to the Coldstream Valley and said, Qing Ming, Ji Hao, and even Si Wen Ming are perfect for this. Pan Yu could be counted as the most miserable mastermind in this world. He had plundered and devoured countless worlds. He was so ambitious that he planned to devour Pan Gu world and reach the highest level. Then, when the few masterminds were fighting for the fruits of victory, they were chopped by Ji Hao, the fate Pan Gu, with the sky-opening axe. Pan Yu has devoured countless worlds. He should be the one who has the most information about the primordial chaos in this world. Liu was naturally very interested in this fat piece of meat. He had already planned to take a big bite out of this fat piece of meat. All he needed to do was to open his pocket and wait for his enemies to fall into his trap. In the Coldstream Valley, Si Wen Ming's sword strike had dissipated the disaster that had befallen him. So powerful. Ji Hao was dumbfounded when he saw the power of this sword. Kid, did you see that? This is the true power of Pan Gu. He's only a Magus king, but he already has an incomparably great power. In Ji Hao's mind, Pan Gu had been telling him about his invincible true power of Pan Gu. Hee, I'm not the most powerful one. Si Wen Ming put his sword back, smilingly nodded, and greeted the others. I'm Si Wen Ming. Nice to meet you, heroes of Southern Wasteland. Thank you, Brother Wen Ming. Ji Xiao walked up while laughing, patted on Si Wen Ming's shoulder, and said, Let's go, brother. I'll buy you a drink. Hearing Ji Xia, Si Wen Ming smiled and nodded. But Ji Hao was stunned. As a descendant, how could Ji Hao not know who Si Wen Ming was? Dad, you're calling you the great your brother. You're patting you the great's shoulder. Is this appropriate? The war was won, but there was still a lot of work to be done. More than 100,000 soldiers of the Allied army had been burned to the brink of death, but they were still alive. These captives had to be dealt with. Qing Ming and Ji Hao organized their forces, collected the captives, and dealt with all kinds of chores. Qing Ming, we've gained a lot from this war. Wind eagles, fang tigers, raging lions, fierce ghosts, demons, insects, all of these clans were wiped out. They had no choice but to surrender. Ji Hao turned his head and glanced at Qing Ming, smiled, and said, You can pick some slaves first. Thank you. Qing Ming smiled and said, I don't want any of these warriors. I want the population. I want the old, weak, women, and children left in their clans. The population of the Qing Yi clan was still too small. Qing Ming had no choice but to give up the strong warriors and pick the old, weak, women, and children. Indeed, your population is too small. How about this? I'll give you the warriors of the Barbarian Bull clan, women and children from other clans, plus the warriors of the Barbarian Bull clan. The Qing Yi clan has also grown a lot. After a few interactions, Ji Hao had a good impression of Qing Ming. Added with the relationship between the two clans, they were born to be allies. Ji Hao was willing to help Qing Ming. Thank you so much. Qing Ming grinned happily, because the Wood Emperor had told him that all of these outsiders could smoothly integrate into the Qing Yi clan and become real clansmen. Chapter 900. Southern Wasteland, Magnificent Mountains and Rivers. Si Wen Ming stood on top of a cliff, raised his head, and looked at the vast land in front of him. The look on his face was a bit complicated. Too bad, this land is just like the other places. There are too many internal conflicts among the humankind. We are brothers. Why can't we gather all of our powers and fight against the non-humankind together? Why do we have to fight among ourselves? Under the mountain, rows of captives were taken away by the Fire Crow clan and the Qing Yi clan warriors. Further away, women and children were also taken away by the Battle Tree and the Qing Yi clan warriors, moving towards the Qing Yi clan's territory. Seeing this, Si Wen Ming's face showed a complicated look. No matter in the Middle Land or the Four Wastelands, the internal conflicts among the humankind were even more harmful than the invasion of the non-humankind. All these years, Si Wen Ming had been thinking about how to solve this problem. Since the ancient times, the humankind had always been in the form of an alliance. both the ancient Holy Emperor and the current Emperor Shun, although they were called the co-rulers of the humankind. In fact, they didn't have much control over the other clans. Si Wenming had always wanted to solve the internal conflicts among the humankind and unite all of the powers to fight against the non-humankind. He had traveled all over the world, the four wastelands, and deeply understood the situation of each clan and the reasons for the conflicts between each clan. The more he understood, the more helpless he felt, because many clans had been fighting against each other for generations. Irreconcilable feuds couldn't be solved. For example, the feud between the Firecrow clan and the Blackwater Serpent clan. Even Si Wenming felt that he didn't know where to start. How on earth can I unite all of the powers of the humankind? Letting out a long breath, Si Wenming puffed out his chest and said, "No matter what, I have to accomplish this great task. I have to unite the humankind into one. There can be no more internal conflicts. Our weapons shouldn't be pointed at our brothers." "That's great." At this moment, Jihao crossed his arms and looked at Si Wenming with a big smile on his face. In his heart, he was very proud. "Did you see? I'm teaching you the great. Unite? What do you mean?" Si Wenming turned around and looked at Jihao with a serious face. Si Wenming faintly felt that this was the answer he had been looking for all this time. "Uncle, Jihao's meaning is to unite all of the clans. Turn all the tribes into a single tribe." Qingming jumped down from a nearby tree and landed in front of Si Wenming. "All the tribes become one tribe? How is this possible?" Si Wenming opened his mouth, but didn't know how to explain it to the two teenagers. There were tens of thousands of different human tribes. How could they become the same tribe? The simplest way was to merge the Firecrow clan and the Blackwater Serpent clan into one clan. Conquer, only by conquering. Jihao pointed his finger at the vast mountain range in front of him and said, "All lands under the sky belong to the Emperor. On the shores of the earth, all are the king's subjects." Raising the Emperor's army, sweeping away all disloyal subjects, the 4 seas submit, and the 8 directions come to court. No one dares to disobey. If that's the case, it's going to be another bloody storm. Si Wenming heaved a long sigh. With his intelligence, how could he not understand Jihao's meaning? But if he did that, his hands would be stained with the blood of countless people. What a grave sin. "May I bear all the sins of the world. I, Si Wenming, will never look back. Even if I will be cursed by countless people, even if my hands will be stained with blood, I will not hesitate. It was better to get the pain over with than to prolong the pain." Si Wenming clearly understood that if he swept away all disloyal subjects, he would unify the world. He would definitely bring a bloody storm. However, once the great task of unifying the world was completed, there would be no more internal conflicts between human tribes. From then on, people would be united, and the sea would be clear, and the river would be clear. This was the foundation of the world. "Thank you so much for your advice." Si Wenming was enlightened by this revelation. He had found his own path. He had found the direction to work toward in the future. He had found a way to solve the internal conflicts between human tribes. No. How could he dare to accept you the great salute? Jihao hurriedly dodged, daring not to accept this salute. Qingming dodged as well. Although he didn't quite understand a key point, he knew that the man in front of him was a noble man, a man worthy of respect. "He." The Wood Emperor laughed in Qingming's mind and said, "Si Wenming is a noble man. His goal of conquering the world is also noble. But will the people of the future be as noble as him? The position of the Emperor, the power of the divine weapon of the country, this is the root of the disaster." Lord Wood Emperor, do you think this method won't work?" Qingming was shocked and hurriedly asked the Wood Emperor. "It's not that it won't work. But forget it. This problem will never be solved. For now, this is the only appropriate method." The Wood Emperor shook his head and didn't say anything else. "You two, you're the most outstanding young men I have ever seen in my travels. You have a bright future ahead of you." Si Wenming was enlightened, and a smile appeared on his face. "Go to the Middle Land. That is the center of the human race. That place is the true battlefield where heroes gallop unhindered. The Middle Land. Ji Hao and Qing Ming didn't know much about the Middle Land. They only knew that the Middle Land was the center of the human race. The Middle Land was the foundation of the human race. The Middle Land was also the battlefield where the non-humankind wreaked havoc. Yes, the Middle Land, that is the birthplace of the human race. That is our foundation. Now, the Middle Land is being invaded by the non-humankind. Every moment, countless heroes of the human race are fighting on the battlefield. Si Wen Ming looked at the two deeply and said, "Go to the Middle Land. That is the place where you can show your talents and shed your blood." "We will go." Ji Hao and Qing Ming glanced at each other and nodded. "We will go to the Middle Land." After the conversation, the three of them left. Qing Ming left the Coldstream Valley and returned to the Qing Yi clan's encampment. Qing Ming had to go back and deal with the women, children, and captives by himself. Turning all the people from different clans into the Qing Yi clan's clansmen, what I am doing now is exactly the same as what Uncle Wen Ming wants to do. Qing Ming rushed back to the Qing Yi clan's encampment with a group of ancient war trees. At the moment, the square of the Qing Yi clan's castle was full of women, children, and captives from different clans. These people all had pale faces and were panic-stricken. Some women and children were even sobbing with tears in their eyes. In the battles between Southern Wasteland clans, it wasn't rare for one to wipe out all the enemy clans. What awaited them was a stab to the head or a slave to death. We, the Qing Yi clan, are not a cruel clan. We don't kill captives, nor women and children. Qing Ming walked up to the high platform, stood on it, looked down at the trembling women, children, and captives, and sighed silently. Uncle Wen Ming's path was indeed correct. Only by unifying the entire human race could we avoid this kind of war between different clans. The number of people who died in internal wars was more than those who died in the hands of the non-human kind. Will all the clans in the world become one clan? Qing Ming took a deep breath and said, "Then, let's start with me." Chapter 901. Lord Wood Emperor, is that all? Qing Ming couldn't believe what the Wood Emperor had just told him. Just by worshipping the Wood Emperor, all the other clans would become the Qing Yi clan's clansmen? That's too magical, isn't it? Of course. Who do you think I am? How could I lie to you? The Wood Emperor snorted unhappily. All right. Qing Ming looked down at the captives, who were shivering, and nodded. He waved his hand, and a beam of cyan light suddenly rushed up. The cyan light covered the sky and the earth and rushed straight to the sky. Above Qing Ming's head, the shadow of a gigantic tree appeared, which seemed to be supporting the whole world. Kowtow to the Wood Emperor! Kowtow to the Wood Emperor! Qing Ming looked down at the captives, opened his arms, and said, "Kowtow to the Wood Emperor. From now on, you're no longer slaves, no longer captives, but our clansmen, our brothers and sisters. As the leader of the Qing Yi clan, I promise you that I will treat all of you fairly, just like my brothers and sisters." Hearing these words, the whole square fell into a dead silence. The hundreds of thousands of captives, women and children all opened their mouths wide and were stunned. How could there be such a good thing? In the battles of the Southern Wasteland, as the losing side, becoming slaves was already a good thing. It was normal to kill all of them and use their blood to worship the ancestor's soul. But now, the leader of the Qing Yi clan said that they were no longer slaves and had become the Qing Yi clan's clansmen. Was there really such a good thing? Even though they didn't believe it. But since the leader asked them to worship the ancestor's soul, they had no choice but to do so. Greetings, Wood Emperor. At this moment, all the captives kneeled down on the ground and kowtowed to the gigantic tree in the sky. Boom! After all the captives kneeled down, cyan light burst out from the gigantic tree and filled the sky. The light spread out like waves and covered the entire Qing Yi clan's encampment. Bathed in the cyan light, the vigorous life force was surging and rippling. All the wounds of the captives, women and children were quickly healed in the cyan light. Are the wounds gone? The captives, women and children were shocked to find that not only were their new wounds healed, even their old wounds were healed in the cyan light. The Qing Yi tribe is so generous? Are they that stupid? At this moment, some people even had the idea of finding an opportunity to exterminate the Qing Yi clan. Unfortunately, the divine might of the Wood Empress was not limited to healing. The vast and mighty green light rippled like water, cleansing everything. Changes occurred in an instant. Regardless of whether it was the captive warriors or the women and children of the various tribes, they instantly discovered that the various kinds of sorcery powers that they had cultivated in the past had all vanished into thin air, completely cleansed by this green light. He lost his power? At this moment, all the captives, women, and children looked at each other and trembled. What kind of divine might was this to be able to wash away everyone's power in an instant? How could this Wood Emperor ancestor soul of the Qing Yi clan be so powerful? However, this was just the beginning. Buzz, amidst the green light that filled the sky, a trembling sound suddenly rang out. The green light that was as vast as the sea instantly turned into green light spots that fell like raindrops into the bodies of the captives, women, and children. Roar! All the clansmen of the furious lion tribe burst out with a green light, and the mark of a green tree appeared between their eyebrows. Then, amidst the thunderous roars, they all turned into the shape of lions. In the next moment, these lions burst out with a green light and turned back into the shape of human beings. The clansmen of the Wind Eagle tribe also changed. They kept changing between the shape of a giant eagle and a human. Druids? Lord Wood Emperor, what is a druid? Qing Ming was confused when he heard the Wood Emperor call these clansmen who could turn into giant eagles and lions druids. He didn't know what it meant at all. It's just a name. Why do you care so much about it? The Wood Empress grumpily replied. In fact, as the intelligence of the system, it had to obey all the instructions of His Majesty Emperor Yu, but it didn't know what a druid was either. The changes were still happening. In addition to the Wind Eagle tribe and the Furious Lion tribe, the Ghost tribe and the Demon tribe also changed. Dark green runes appeared on their half-human, half-ghost bodies, and their eyes didn't have the slightest white, only emitting a dark green light. These people are called demon hunters? But what is a demon? Qing Ming couldn't figure out at all. I told you, it's just a name. The Wood Emperor was also depressed. His Majesty Emperor Yu, what kind of names did you give them? Oh, Qing Ming nodded his head as if he understood, then continued to look at the remaining captives. The Gu division's change was the greatest. The goo worms that they had been nurturing in their bodies had all turned into green balls of light. They were like giant fireflies as they danced in the air. The Wood Empress had named these gigantic fireflies little fairies. Qing Ming didn't ask what little spirits were this time. As for the Gu tribe clansmen, they also changed. They became like the ordinary clansmen of the Qing Yi tribe and had the talent for archery. As for the Fang Tiger tribe, they changed into a profession called sentinel. According to the Wood Emperor, sentinels could ride tigers and leopards, and could also release a kind of spiral throwing knife. They were a type of long-range cavalry. As for the Barbarian Bull tribe, they didn't change much. They just changed their power into the power of wood, and they were still warriors. When all the changes were completed, the clansmen of the Qing Yi tribe all opened their mouths wide and were completely confused. They didn't know what was going on. Well, Qing Ming was also confused. He couldn't explain it, and he didn't know how to explain it, because even he didn't understand it. Greetings, Chief. After the changes, the clansmen of all clansmen knelt down in front of Qing Ming. In their eyes, there was no fear, no panic, no hatred, only respect. At this moment, all the captives, women and children had become clansmen of the Qing Yi tribe, and they were all very loyal. Get up. From today onwards, we're a family. We are all clansmen of the Qing Yi tribe. Through the Wood Emperor, Qing Ming could clearly feel the loyalty and admiration in the hearts of the people below. He was very happy about this. The Wood Emperor was indeed powerful. Long live the chief. Long live the Qing Yi tribe. Cheers resounded through the sky. By now, nearly 200,000 clansmen of the Qing-Yi tribe had all become clansmen of the Qing-Yi tribe. This made the Qing-Yi tribe, which only had tens of thousands of clansmen, suddenly increase in population and strength. The so-called druids, demon hunters, sentinels, fairies, and barbarian warriors all had the ability to fight. As long as they were given some time to grow, any one of them would be a qualified warrior. Is this what the Wood Emperor meant by violent soldiers? Qing Ming thought that the Wood Emperor was too mysterious, and he couldn't understand a word he said. Chapter 902. Oh my God! On this day, when Ji Hao walked into the Qing-Yi clan, he was shocked by the scene in front of him. Those balls of light lingering in the surrounding forest. Could they be fairies? Those huge eagles descended from the sky and turned into human figures. Were they druids of the Talon? Those that turned into lions and then into human figures must be druids of the Claw. And demon hunters? And night sentinels? You said you're not a Lydon? You're still playing dumb? You bastard, where did you come from? Ji Hao grabbed Qing Ming and was furious. What are you talking about? Qing Ming was confused. He didn't know what Ji Hao was talking about. What's going on with this mess of things? Ji Hao pointed at those messy people outside the Qing-Yi clan and asked with a confused face. It's a gift from the Wood Emperor. I don't know what's going on. Qing Ming said helplessly, I don't know why it's called that. I don't even know what it means. All right. Ji Hao shrugged. He already knew that there must be someone behind Qing Ming, who might be a time traveler. Wood Emperor? Emperor Qing? Emperor Qing is a time traveler? That's interesting. Since he himself was a time traveler, it wasn't strange that someone else had traveled through time before him. The World Tree was also called the World Tree. Was this Wood Emperor the World Tree? Was he called Teldrassil or Nerdrassil? Well, that's not important. Qing Ming, are you going to Middle Land? Ji Hao crossed his arms, raised his head, and looked at the Qing-Yi clan's encampment. Seeing the cheerful scene, he sighed deeply and said, Uncle Wen Ming said that in order for the humankind to live and work in peace and contentment, many people must fight for it. I want to go to the Middle Land and fight. Yes, many people will fight for it, and even die for it. Qing Ming walked to the window, held the windowsill, and looked out at the prosperous Qing-Yi clan. A faint smile appeared on his face, and he said, the Qing-Yi clan is not weak anymore. With Uncle Ji Xia's staff of swearing, the safety of our two clans is no longer a problem. Turning around, Qing Ming nodded to Ji Hao and said, I'm going to Middle Earth. Great. Ji Hao laughed out loud. Let's fight side by side and sweep across Central Earth. The next day, Qing Ming and Ji Hao prepared to leave. Qing Ming asked Qing Ying to temporarily take over the position of the clan leader, then gave Qing Ying an essence pill to help him awaken his magic acupoints and break into the level of senior magus. Qing Ying was Ji Xia's brother-in-law and had such a close relationship with Ji Xia. Therefore, the two clans must have been working together. Therefore, the safety of the Qing-Yi clan in the southern wasteland was no longer a problem. After leaving the Qing-Yi clan, the two of them headed towards the Coldstream Valley. Boom! Just when they were halfway there, a loud sound suddenly exploded in front of them. A huge black shadow rushed out of the ground with a roar and fiercely collided with the two of them. There's actually an ambush? The two of them were shocked. They quickly pulled out their swords and slashed at the shadow. Bastard! How dare you hurt us? A furious roar came. A cyan-cloaked silhouette flashed across the air and blocked the way of Qing Ming and Ji Hao. He pointed his finger at the silhouette, and a bright light flashed across the air. The silhouette fell to the ground and died instantly. This silhouette was actually a huge scorpion. However, Ji Hao and Qing Ming didn't pay any attention to this scorpion. A senior-level scorpion was killed by Ji Hao with a single finger. This man's power might not be weaker than Si Wen Ming. Such a powerful being had appeared in the southern wasteland. How could they not be shocked? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The cyan-cloaked man smiled at the two of them apologetically and said, I chased this guy here. I didn't think that I would have almost hurt you too. My name is Pa. You. Tua. Your primordial spirits have been condensed, and both inside and outside of your bodies are connected. You two have such great potential for cultivation. The cyan-cloaked man named Pa looked at Ji Hao and Qing Ming in surprise and said, I am a disciple of Yu Daoren. You two have such great potential. You're perfect for cultivation. Too bad. I have something else to do, so I can't return to the Middle Land. Speaking up to this point, Pa took out 2 jade talismans from his bosom and said, Take these. In 3 years, I will come back. When that time comes, I will take you two to my Shifu. Pa handed the 2 jade talismans to Ji Hao and Qing Ming, then waved his hand and took the scorpion back. I have something else to do, so I have to go now. Wait for me. After saying this, Pa transformed into a cyan beam of light, flashed across the sky, and disappeared. What? What's going on? Looking at the jade talismans in their hands, Ji Hao and Qing Ming glanced at each other in confusion. What great potential! What Shifu? What Shifu? He just ran away without introducing them? He thought that you must have heard about the name of Yu Daoren. Of course, he didn't need to introduce you. Pangu reminded Ji Hao in his mind. Yu Daoren, Priest Achi, and Priest Qingwei are called the 3 Pure Ones. Yu Daoren is famous for its swordsmanship and sword formations. It's just that you've never heard of it in this small place. Yu Daoren? Sword formation? 3 Pure Ones? Could it be him? At this moment, Ji Hao even wanted to run over and hug Po's leg. Who was Yu Daoren? The Tongtian sect leader. Having such a powerful Shifu, who is unreasonable and always protective of his disciples. Such a good thing was hard to come by. Since Yu Daoren is one of the 3 Pure Ones, this Pa must be priest of many treasures. Damn, he ran so fast. Priest of many treasures. Just like his name, I should at least ask him to give me a few magic treasures. Ji Hao suddenly felt so upset that he wanted to beat his own chest and stamp his feet. Let go, don't just stand there. Qing Ming had also learned about Po's background from the Wood Emperor, but he didn't have any expectations for Pa. If Pa wanted to make magic treasures, he could do it anytime, anywhere. He didn't need to ask anyone else for help. Ji Hao came back to his senses, stopped thinking about Pa, and followed Qing Ming to the Coldstream Valley. Boom! Just as they arrived at the gate of the Coldstream Valley, a huge black shadow suddenly appeared. Again, both of them were shocked. They had just made a scene, and now there was another one? What the hell was going on? Their bodies flashed, and they dodged the black shadow. Boom! The black shadow heavily fell to the ground, smashing the ground and creating a big hole. Hey Yao, how did you? The black shadow that broke through the air just now was Qing Ming's mountain giant leader, Hey Yao. An evil bitch. An evil bitch. Hey Yao shook his head and yelled angrily. If she didn't have someone to protect her, I would have smashed her into pieces. Who are you going to smash? A beautiful girl stood at the gate of the Coldstream Valley with her arms akimbo and her feet stepping on 2 huge iron hammers. She raised her head proudly. Big guy, is that all you've got? Believe it or not, I'll smash you into pieces with my hammers. A flame pattern between the girl's eyebrows burst out with a scorching light. I'm the strongest. None of you can beat me. All right, Ji Hao and Qing Ming didn't say anything. The flame pattern between the girl's eyebrows had revealed her identity. Fire god Zhu Rong. She was the direct descendant of fire god Zhu Rong. She was Taoist Duo Bao, the descendant of fire god Zhu Rong, and Yu the Great in the Coldstream Valley. Ji Hao suddenly had a feeling that he was about to meet a storm. Liu thought, young man, many people are after you. If it weren't for Niwa going crazy, more people would have come. Chapter 903. Man, you're being naughty again. Si Wenming also had a headache when talking to this little girl of the Zhu Rong family. In the southern wasteland, the Zhu Rong family was the most powerful family. If Si Wenming wanted to take Ji Hao and Qing Ming away, he would surely have to inform the Zhu Rong family. Although the old Zhu Rong wasn't there, his sons were. But he didn't expect that the little girl of the Zhu Rong family would show up. Under the gazes of the group of her brothers, this girl, who had caused a great disturbance in Zhu Rong Mountain, hopped onto Si Wenming and followed him down the Zhu Rong Mountain. Once she arrived at the Coldstream Valley, she smashed the head of Qing Ming's mountain giant. All living creatures in the southern wasteland knew about the Zhu Rong emblem. No one dared to offend the little girl of the Zhu Rong family. He couldn't fight her, but she kept bothering He Yao, so he had to fight her. Therefore, He Yao had no choice but to lose again and again. You can even fake a fall so well, what a talent. After knowing the truth, Ji Hao gave He Yao a thumbs up. Uncle Wenming, we've decided to go to the Middle Land with you. He had learned that Si Wenming had made the Fire Crow clan and the Qingyi clan become the Zhu Rong family's clans, and were under the protection of the Zhu Rong family. Qing Ming's last worry was gone. Good, good, good. Si Wenming laughed out loud. Young heroes like you should go to the Middle Land and see the world. Young heroes? Are you guys that strong? Come on, let's have a competition. Man raised her pair of hammers while yelling loudly, causing a loud gust of wind to rise. Another wave of chaos followed. Man, if you keep making trouble, I won't take you to the Middle Land. Si Wenming grabbed the hammers from Man's hands and pressed this aggressive girl down. He was speechless. No wonder the old Zhu Rong hid in the Middle Land and didn't want to come back. Whoever had a daughter like this would have a headache, wouldn't they? The old Zhu Rong didn't want to see her, didn't he? How much money would the old Zhu Rong have to give to marry his daughter off? Another day passed. Accompanied by countless clansmen of the Fire Crow clan and Qingyi clan, Si Wenming took Ji Hao and Qing Yi to the Middle Land. Voila! Amidst the swaying leaves, a fiery red leopard dashed out of the forest. Hung Luo sat on the leopard and looked up at Qing's sticks. I also want to go to the Central Plains. Qing Ming scratched his head and didn't know how to answer. Of course you have to come. Ji Hao laughed out loud and welcomed Hung Luo. Is Illidan with Tyrant? How interesting. With Demon. Si Wenming glanced at Hung Luo and Qing Ming before nodding with a smile. All right, let's do it together. Thus, there was one more person in the team. Along the way, they crossed mountains and valleys. The further they walked, the more remote it became, and the further they walked, the further south they went. Uncle, shouldn't the Central Plains be in the north? How are we going to go south? Ji Hao couldn't help but ask Si Wenming a question. There's a spatial rift between the Middle Continent and the Southern Wasteland. He couldn't just walk over. We need to take a boat. Si Wenming explained as he led the group to a wilderness. They stood on a cliff and waited for the ship to arrive. They waited for another 3 days. On the morning of the third day, a huge rumbling sound came from afar, as if the entire earth was trembling. Dong! 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 Extremely heavy footsteps echoed between heaven and earth. Looking from afar, a huge city rumbled its way over. That's the boat. Qing Ming's double eyes had already seen the scene in the distance clearly. It wasn't a boat, nor was it a floating city. It was a huge black tortoise. The wide back shell was about 30 miles in diameter. Four huge legs that were like heavenly pillars stepped on the ground, creating a huge sound that shook the earth. It looked clumsy, but it was actually fast. This huge black tortoise sped over at lightning speed. After a moment, it stopped in front of everyone. Guests, do you want to take a boat to the Central Plains? On the huge city on the back of the tortoise, a man wearing a long robe looked at everyone with a smile. 30 jade coins. Isn't it 5 jade coins per person? It should be 25. Why is it 30? Si Wenming touched his pocket. All right. Are you the great, the future founder of the great Xia dynasty? He has no money. Such a big leopard. We have to take a share. The long-robed man smiled. Business is not good. We have no other choice. Jade coins? Ji Hao and Qing Ming looked at each other. They had never even heard of jade coins, so it was naturally impossible for them to have money. Find us a quiet courtyard. At this time, Man waved her hand and threw out a fiery red gem, waving her hand like a nouveau riche. So, there was a nouveau riche by her side. Ji Hao and Qing Ming looked at each other and smiled. It felt good to be friends with a nouveau riche. Leaf fire essence, good stuff. The long-robed man took the gem and hurriedly opened the city gate. He welcomed them with a face full of smiles. Guests, please come in. This city built on the back of the black tortoise was not small. After everyone entered the city, they discovered that it was actually like a market. On both sides of the crisscrossing streets, there were all kinds of shops, but there were not many customers coming and going in the city. For caravans like them, after arriving at a trading place, they would open the market and trade with people. Now that they have returned, these market shops have probably become warehouses. Si Wenming was experienced and knowledgeable. While walking, he introduced to Ji Hao and the rest of them. Guests are experienced and knowledgeable, the long-robed man exclaimed as he led the group to a quiet courtyard. The courtyard is still okay. Man nodded and walked to the door and pushed. Clang! The door of the courtyard broke into pieces. Si Wenming and the rest touched their foreheads and looked at the sky speechlessly. The long-robed man of the caravan was dumbstruck. After a while, he came back to his senses. That guest, the leaf fire essence you gave is enough to compensate for this door. No matter. No matter. So weak? Your door? Is it made of paper? Man shook her hand and snorted, walking into the courtyard. I wait. Si Wenming's face changed and hurriedly shouted. Before he finished, another clang came from the front. This time, that leaf fire essence is not enough. The long-robed man blinked and looked at Si Wenming. Guess look swoosh. Another fiery red gem flew through the air. The long-robed man took it and nodded with a smile. He shouted at Man in the courtyard. Guest, I have long planned to rebuild this courtyard. You can do whatever you want. I'm not afraid of tearing it down. Clang, clang, clang. This cracking sound made everyone's eyes twitch. Si Wenming, Ji Hao, Qing Ming, Hung Luo, and even Hung Luo's leopard all looked at the sky speechlessly. Ji Hao already had a word in his mind. God of destruction. AI. Si Wenming sighed deeply. Bringing Man out this time was definitely a mistake. What did old Zhu Rong feed her? Her brute force was even stronger than a baby true dragon, but she could not control it at all and did not know how to control it. She smashed it all the way. Old Zhu Rong, I hope you are rich enough. Si Wenming shook his head speechlessly. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.